Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto becomes master of Taijutsu and Ninjutsu part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. In the Hidden Leaf village, a lone, blonde child laid on top of his bed. There was no one else living in his apartment, a place just fine for any family, but far too big for a child to be living on their own. It was the topmost flat and it gave him a view of the village he felt conflicted about. It was beautiful, but it hated him. I don't get it, Naruto said to himself. Why wouldn't the old man tell me who they were? Tears sprang from his blue eyes. I just want to know. Pathetic. He sprang up. What the? His eyes widened at his new claustrophobic sewer-like surroundings. How did I get here? Turning his head, he found multiple tunnels, all flooded like the main route he was in. Come here. Who are you? The voice rumbled from all directions, so he just walked down the nearest tunnel. It took about half a minute for him to reach a giant open section of the waterlogged dungeon. Hello? Several steps forward let him see a giant cage with a paper inscribed by seal covering where one would put a lock. Whoa. A slit red eye appeared in the darkness. He froze in realization that it was looking at him. Finally, you've come. Gleaming white fangs lined up to make a grin. My mewling little ball and chain. What are you? He shook and stepped forward to see red-orange fur comprising several tails. It didn't take any more steps for him to realize what the thing was. His mouth gaped in horror. It laughed, shaking the strange cavern they were in. I miss seeing the miserable faces of mortal gnats right before I killed them. Are you going to wet yourself? Feel free, I'm not the one who's going to have to clean it up. You're the nine-tailed fox. Amazing that you figured that out all by yourself. Shut up. He pointed a finger at him. You killed my parents. I kill lots of human parents. His fingers balled into fists before he yelled. I hate you. Its claws smashed against the cage to no avail. That's just what I was thinking. It snarled. You pathetic weak crying maggot. Weeping over dead weaklings you don't even know because they rutted against each other to produce you, a living weakling. The thing's voice became mocking. Why does everyone hate me? I only want to be accepted. Nobody loves me. It rolled its eyes as Naruto started crying. Go ahead. Cry, like you always do. It's just the two of us, as always. The boy sniffled. What do you mean? He looked around again. Where are we? Haven't you figured it out yet? It burst into laughter. We're inside you. No. He shook his head. No. Yes. No. Naruto swiped away his tears. Does this mean I'm you? It slammed against the invulnerable cage with its entire body. Watch your mouth, you insignificant worm. As if I would ever be a mucus-eating mortal runt. You should be grateful I am even speaking to you. It settled back in its cage, growling. And after all you're crying over wanting someone other than the third to talk to. Are you why they hate me? Who could hate a sniveling brat who makes a nuisance of themselves for attention? Naruto grit his teeth. Just answer me. Human fools such as yourself are superstitious, irrational, and short-sighted. You fear and despise what you do not understand and those who are not like you. In the pursuit of things, your kind will set back entire generations or waste them on nonsense. I've seen it happen for centuries. It scoffed. Some of them could see you as me, despite being a container rather than my personality, the stupid vermin. Could be they find you as pathetic as I do. Or perhaps lacking parents is enough to make one of you a pariah. It gave a shrug. Human ignorance is as senseless as it is amusing. That was the last he could take. He sat down and hugged his legs. A great deal of him wanted it all to be a lie. He wanted to wake up in his bed without ever hearing it. This had to be a nightmare. The nine-tails smiled, as mischievous and devious as it was sinister. The fourth Hokage, the one you look up to so much, is the one who sealed me inside you on the day you were born. And he collapsed. As annoying as it was for the tailed beast to converse with his jailer, it couldn't help but enjoy destroying his world. The closer he was to mental self-destruction, the closer the creature was to freedom. Just one firm tug of the seal, and it would come off. It did enjoy tormenting the boy in the meantime. Not like there was anything else for it to do. It had been years since that day. He told absolutely no one about it, but that didn't stop anyone from noticing he was worse off than before. The attitude he had got him sent back a year, and his grades didn't help either. Iruka, the Hokage, and even old man Tucci lectured him all the time about his behavior. Another year to be failed at the academy. In the freezing cold of winter, Naruto's anger kept him warmer than his coat or scarf ever could. Then he saw three guys around a girl calling her names. Freak. Ali. What's wrong? He rushed in and broke his nose with a lunging punch, sending him sprawling on the snow and blood out to dye some of the white red. What's wrong with your face? He glanced at his now bruised knuckles. It's bleeding like your mother's. There was no clue in his head what that actually meant. He just heard a man use that phrase one time and the other guy got so angry you could see the veins in his head. The two standing bullies were surprised and confused while Hinata stayed crouched, her reddening face in her palms. What's a? Naruto decked that one next and ducked under a punch from the other. He wasn't that good at Taijutsu. It's just his 1 year of training gave him more experience than any newbie, much less what were obvious flunky material. It's you three, dumbasses. He raised his knee between the last one's legs too fast for him to deflect with his thigh. And I guess you're 2 in 1 now. They picked themselves up and ran away, making him smirk. Congratulations. You beat up 3 worthless, untrained maggots. Truly, you are on the path to becoming a powerful shinobi. He stiffened before quivering in rage. Are you okay? A quiet voice asked, snapping him out of it. Hinata flinched as he turned to look at her. Why you punched one of them very hard. You look like Niji, Naruto said. She also really did look like a doll. He frowned. That douchebag your brother or something? He raised an eyebrow as she winced. See cousin. Her pure white pupils looked at his hand. See can I? She pointed at it. He shook his head. It'll heal. No matter how much he got hurt, he was always fine in either the next day or the day after. His face twisted as hers went red. Are you sick or? Please. Okay. Naruto pulled back his sleeve a bit and tugged off his mitten, letting the purple blackish fist breathe. Just hurry up. I don't like frostbite. Nodding, Hinata fished bandage wrapping from one of her trainee pouches. She held her fingers straight with her free hand and pointed at his bruise with the one of her wrapped fingers. Naruto put them in position and she began rolling him up by the fingers to the wrist. Her work was done within a minute. He wiggled his fingers and nodded at the same flexibility yet lack of tightness. You've been practicing your medical basics already. He slid the mitten over his now wrapped hand. Proactive, like Niji. You're good too. Not really. If he didn't tell the truth, he'd have to hear the fox laugh at him. I know Niji because I failed a year. He wanted to lie about the next part though. I was at the bottom of my class. Oh, but you learned something. It wasn't enough. He shook his head. We need to get going. Naruto began running off. If you ever see Niji again, tell him Naruto Uzumaki said to get that stick out of his ass. Hinata blushed and waved goodbye. He could feel the interest of the beast inside him. What is it? He whispered to himself. Look at you, playing hero. There were many times he wanted to slam his head against the nearest hard object and many times he did. About a year passed. The start of his second academy year had the inclusion of someone that intrigued him. Of course, the feeling was not reciprocated, as if he cared. It was the beginning of Taijutsu training. Fight me, you gloomy cocksucker. Iruka's forehead vein popped. Naruto. Why do you even bother, Iruka-sensei? Shikamaru yawned from his place on the lineup. He never cared for the academy. In fact, he didn't care so much he was almost considered as bad as Naruto, almost. Where they were supposed to be standing, he was sitting. The other students shared similar facial expressions. It wasn't as if they cared about swearing. He insulted everyone equally. And more than a few of them laughed at the insults, though it was rarely at the ones targeted at them. He took a deep breath and sighed. There was no winning with his particular generation of students. Land of Fire as a whole hadn't seen much open conflict in years. The previous generation was giving the current one the easy lives they didn't have at their age. Me and the cocksucker doing this or what, you simping dumbus? What's a Iruka shook his head. The delinquent was aiding in everyone's vocabulary every other day. You know you have detention, right? His unfazed expression told him all he needed. Begin. Sasuke began with a swerve and a hook, familiar with his opponent's preferences for Taijutsu. Naruto avoided the punch just barely, having it just graze his cheek before lifting his elbow for the other boy's jaw. The way he fought was dangerous to himself as well as his opponent. As a rule, the academy didn't advocate for use of joints in attacks or grappling because of the damage they could do. The jutsu specialists that worked with their knees and elbows more often than not retired before turning 30 due to arthritis. Grappling was best taught by professionals to full adults rather than children incapable of understanding that just because they do not feel pain in a lock doesn't mean it isn't working. The sheer damage throwing someone down on a hard surface caused as well was a blaring sign that it shouldn't be taught to inexperienced children. Sasuke leaned back, careful to avoid any contact, shifted his balance onto one foot and brought his other leg up to kick him in the side of his face or jaw, like he'd done several times before. Except his kick didn't make contact. Grinning, Naruto grabbed the leg from opposite sides of the joint and kicked out the lone support. He felt happiness. And then he felt someone's hands on his shoulders and saw Iruka catch Sasuke. That is not academy-approved Taijutsu, Mizuki, the man behind him said. Sasuke shared the same dumbfounded and disappointed look as the rest of the academy students. It was the first time he was pressured by someone his own age, ever. The maneuver looked as slick as it was to pull off. A part of him was mad at Iruka when he set him down. He thought he could handle it. Naruto's expression was blank. I was winning, he said far more to himself than he did anyone else. Bros and ho. His fist drove into the Chunin's stomach. I was winning. He blinked, set back into neutral position, and stood still at the realization of what he just did. The entire training area fell silent as well. 3 kids were in the detention room. It was the usual suspects. Naruto, Shikamaru, and Choji. Only Shikamaru and Choji were really friends. Naruto was an acquaintance, and they were acquaintances to him. Being around them only made him feel more alone. He was face down on a desk, Choji was snacking in his seat, and Shikamaru was laying down on what they were supposed to use for putting notes. They had been like that for nearly an hour at that point and made barely more than some munching noises. I can't believe you punched, Iruka-sensei, Choji finally said. Naruto groaned. I was winning. Where did you even learn that? Shikamaru asked. Did you pick up Taijutsu in the red light district? They had ended up there together once. Naruto mentioned it as a source of his ever-growing list of insults, and Choji wanted to go because he passively mentioned eating some fried dumplings that were delicious there. Shikamaru went along because he was worried about Choji and didn't trust Naruto at the time. It was pretty fun until Iruka showed up. Thought it up on the spot. Why get kicked in the face when I can catch and trip? Naruto grumbled. Shit, academy rules. People don't normally heal from broken bones and cuts in days. We can't afford to get hurt like you can. It was something they all figured out. Sasuke had to beat him bloody sometimes. Naruto once accidentally threw a kunai meant for group throwing straight through his foot and it was healed the next 2 days. Choji munched. Seriously, do you have some sort of Kekkei Genkai? I was going to beat him. You're the only one who's gotten that close, I guess. Shikamaru shrugged. You've been thinking about doing that for a while, haven't you? Yeah, and it was great before it was ruined. Naruto, there is something Choji didn't understand his mistake until the blonde boy was frozen with his fist several inches away from his face. Shikamaru's shadow was connected to his, stopping the textbook case of problem child from knocking his teeth out. He didn't mean it. Then why did he say it? The Akimichi swallowed his potato chips. Why did you punch Iruka-sensei? Naruto stopped struggling against the Nara family's special jutsu. I really wanted to beat the shit out of Sasuke for once. You want to every day. Shikamaru released him. He sat back down as Nara resumed lounging. I was so fucking close this time. Shikamaru patted his shoulder with the heel of his shoe, legitimately trying to comfort rather than insult. We know. All of us do. He laughed. Even Sasuke looked like he missed out on something. They're not going to let you try something like that again. I knew. Oh. The classroom door opened and Iruka walked in. Naruto. He called out. Come with me. He rose. See you guys next time. Giving a goodbye wave, he walked down to the Chunin. Gotta go get lectured by old man Hokage and Iruka. They waved back as the student and teacher walked out. Barbecue? Akimichi said. Hey, feeling down for some fried dumplings. Right on. Choji opened the window and fit himself through. Shikamaru followed him out, leaving the detention classroom barren as it usually was. Naruto and Iruka were walking outside, but not to the Hokage residence, which was awfully close to the academy. It was a trail both of them knew by different ways. Only one of them was doubtful the other was leading them to the safe place. I really pissed you off this time, simping Dumbus. The teacher didn't acknowledge the insult or his words. You know, you can just beat the shit out of me and get it over with. A concerned glance made him raise a confused eyebrow. What? I punched you, didn't I? I'm wearing chain mesh. Granted, it still hurt. He looked ahead at a sign. We're almost there. Naruto looked at it and widened his eyes. How did you know? Know what? He shook his head. Iruka went in and sat down. Hey, Tucci, 1 bowl of miso, please. He glanced back to see why the seat next to him was empty. Naruto, come in. Naruto is with you, Iruka. Am asked. She looked over his shoulder and saw the orange-blue outfit the child usually wore. Come on in. Can you just beat the shit out of me instead? Naruto. Tucci scolded. Doing his best not to make eye contact, the boy walked in and sat 2 seats away from his academy teacher. He planted his elbow on the counter, rested his hand on his cheek, and looked straight at the wall to his left. What's the matter? Iruka asked. This is so fucking awkward. That's enough out of you, young man. Tucci said again, filling 2 bowls with their appropriate ingredients. Am gave a small whine. You used to be so sweet and innocent. So were you. Naruto looked at her, held out his hands, and started squeezing the air. The teenage girl blushed before returning to her work. Her father was too busy preparing their meals to see the gesture. Iruka, however, was witness to the entire thing. He looked at his flabbergasted teacher. What? You were sweet and innocent. I was a worthless crybaby, Naruto answered, spite in every word. Tucci sighed as he set down their filled bowls. You were a normal kid. He handed Iruka his chopsticks and then Naruto. Your favorite. He broke them apart as he glanced at Iruka. You're lucky I don't waste ramen, or I'd throw this at you. Why? He broke apart his own. This entire situation. Naruto scowled. He dug his sticks in and began slurping. And you stop my fitwit Sask. AM frowned. Don't talk while you're eating. Stop me Dan, milliseconds it's. Iruka frowned while she shook her head. Winning against him meant a lot to you, didn't it? A tad bit of annoyance was in his mind as the lad kept slurping. If he'd broken a limb, he wouldn't be able to practice for weeks. Naruto stopped and swallowed. Sounds a lot like that's not my problem. I thought you liked him. He started rolling up his own noodles. I like punching his stupid face when I can punch his stupid face. Iruka held them up and slurped them down. There was one specific time you actually managed that. Shut up. He returned to consuming his ramen with advanced speed, determined to get this moment over with as fast possible. Gucci shook his head. You're going to burn your tongue. His daughter joined him in the disappointed head gestures. Uncaw. Sizzling noodles, pork and egg all swamped into Naruto's mouth, still hot. Then he swallowed. And then he realized it was all too much. Iruka slapped him on the back, helping his fast-eaten food to go down. You need to take better care of yourself. I can heal. The blonde held out his scalded tongue and grabbed his burned throat. Ugh. Dad told you so, Am chanted. Rolling his eyes, he turned to his teacher. So why did you bring me here? Are you some kind of meso-pedo? Where do you keep learning those words? Iruka gaped. Red Light District, Am answered, her eyes staring in disappointment at Naruto. They have these girls with weird black strips over them. He put a hand to his chin. They actually don't like the guys who like them, but it seems like they make a lot. Naruto closed his eyes and smirked. Exact opposite of the type of girls you visit there. Am's disappointed stare turned to Iruka and increased several magnitudes in disappointment. Her father joined in. Naruto was still a child who didn't know any better. Iruka was an adult who needed to set an example. He's lying. Iruka flinched. If there was one positive to the boy's attitude, it was that people tended to believe him. A man who called another a cunt to his face was not hiding behind the curtain of civility. It was their honest opinion with no filter. And, at least in this case, Naruto wasn't lying. The looks increased further in judgment. Sighing, the Chunin shook his head. I brought you here to apologize for ruining your big moment and to make it up to you. I punched you, meso-pedo. You felt cheated. Iruka's vein popped, though he kept a civil tone. And you were. If you were facing Sasuke in a battle to the death, that could have easily been a finishing move. He did not expect it, he has little experience with grappling, and he was underestimating you. Except, you were training to become shinobi under academy guidelines. I'm sorry. Naruto lifted the bowl to his lips and slurped what was left of his ramen. He got out of his seat before walking out of the stand. Thanks. He watched him walk out of sight. That's not really what you're supposed to say. Turning back to the father-daughter duo, he pulled out his coin pouch. I'll pay for him. The moment Naruto was certain he was out of sight and hearing range of anyone, he let the tears fall from his eyes for the first time in a long time. Oh, look who didn't get what he wanted. He shook his head and wiped his nose as the tears kept coming. Then what are you crying over? I'm happy. The beast offered no response. Intricacies of the mortal minds did not interest it whatsoever. A crying child was a crying child. It had ribbed the lad for this weakness later where it can be maximized for torment. It was the final year and the final day for Naruto's gaggle of trainees. They were all undertaking the academy's graduation exam. And, for once in the entire time they've known him, Naruto didn't say a single word, much less insulted nor belittled anyone. That fact disturbed everyone rather than soothed them. They were lined up outside of the classroom for their final clone test. He excelled in Taijutsu yet scored abysmally on the written ones. No one needed to excel on them to pass it all, however. It just looked good on paper. Naruto was shaking, visibly and audibly. No one looked at him. There was no telling what his reaction would be. His behavior was far too abnormal. Naruto Uzumaki. Mizuki called out. He jumped and gasped at the same time before shambling to the classroom entrance. Sasuke had his eyes closed, Shikamaru gave him a nod, Choji had a determined look on his face, Hinata looked far more concerned than usual, and everyone else was trying to avoid looking at him. None of them had an effect because he was too focused on what was coming next to even register their presence beyond physical obstacles to avoid bumping into. Iruka nearly dropped his clipboard at the sight of his worst student, looking like the lone survivor of a bandit attack. Stand before us, please. The child not saying anything still set him off. Now perform the clone jutsu. The fox began snickering. Naruto's fingers slammed together so hard the impact could be heard in the hallway. He channeled his chakra to such a degree the wind swirled around him. A shaky breath left his lips before he did his best. The odd pop clones made when they formed told him it was done. He opened his eyes and inched them toward his left. A faded corpse-like version of himself laid on the floor. The beast burst into thunderous, mocking laughter that filled the uneasy halls of his mind. Mizuki and Iruka's discussion about the acceptability of the clone fell on deaf ears. He already knew the result. It was what he was dreading the entire time. Truly, it felt like the worst day in his entire life. He failed. Glass shattering broke the two teachers' concentration. They turned to see as their other students outside crowded the narrow entrance to peek for themselves. One of the windows was shattered in the shape of a person. Fragments of glass sat on the floor beneath it, coated red with blood. All the kids needed to see was the clone left behind to understand the why of it. Izuki turned to the nosy ones as Iruka stared at the shattered window. "Students, please wait for your name to be called. Shouldn't someone get him?" Choji asked. Shikamaru shook his head. "I've never seen Naruto do anything like this, but he'd probably mangle anyone who tried to stop him right now. As someone should check." Hinata blinked and activated her Byakugan. "He's sitting on the swing outside the entrance, bleeding." Biba raised an eyebrow at that where everyone else understood. "He'll be fine," Shino spoke, surprising much of them. "It's Naruto. He survived worse." Izuki looked to a frozen Iruka. "I'll talk to him after, alright. You go log the records." He smiled as the man snapped out to nod. The rest of the graduation testing continued without issue. Almost all of their class was left of and composed of clan kids, so they passed. Even the clanless Akura came out with headband. Their parents had come to pick them up outside the front entrance, right in Naruto's line of sight. Swinging slightly on the swing set, there was glass shards in his whiskered face, two big shards in the sides of his chest, and one large lodged in the leg of the side of him that took the most impact. Not much shards were left on his jumpsuit itself, giving no other evidence of what happened. He received the usual looks of disdain, but he was too tired to rush over there and try to gouge them. The ceaseless laughter of his tormentor did not pause once since his grand exit. "Hey," Mizuki said, having been ignored in favor of what the lad could never have. "I know you failed the test, but what if I told you there was still a way you could pass?" He smiled as the kid's gaze focused on him. "Before your generation, there was this test only taken by the most daring or craziest of trainees. It was discontinued because people died failing it." Interesting. The test was to steal and learn something from the scroll of seals held in the Hokage library. Of course, you had to be the absolute pinnacle of what a shinobi could do to infiltrate the residence and take something as important as that from the strongest ninja in the village. Too many kids thought they measured up only to find out the hard way. Mizuki shook his head. "If you pull it off, I'll defend you and present you to the Hokage himself. If they don't accept it, I'll take the blame." Naruto's face was stoic. "Sounds a lot like you're trying to get me killed, slimy fuck. Don't you want to pass?" Mizuki grinned. "Don't you want to be better than Sasuke?" That was all he needed to say. He took the shards out of his face, ripped out the ones in his chest, and pulled the one in his leg out. With one hand pressuring his biggest wound, he a bandage roll from his pouch. His body went taut as needed and relaxed when he was done wrapping his wounds. "There's a cabin in the woods meant for scouts. If you've got what it takes, you'll find it. No one will look for you there. They would never kill you, but this one does mean you harm." "I know." He stood up from the swing set and walked away from Mizuki without sparing him a glance. It didn't take a genius to tell the man was likely smiling maliciously behind him. Even if it was all nonsense, he wanted to prove he was better and there was nothing wrong with him. Naruto waited until the sun began to set, knowing orange blended best with the light, then for him to make a getaway without notice. His plan was to transform into one of the guards or a rat. As far as he remembered, there was no vermin problem, so a rat was out of the question. He needed a face and a route to follow that wouldn't arouse suspicion. The grin spread across his face when he remembered a Jonin in glasses that had every reason to be in the residence. He put his fingers together and transformed into Abisu, Konohamaru's equally annoying teacher. The brat and him had an odd relationship. Konohamaru tagged along with old Sarutobi one day to his place, and he nearly brained the child when he called him an insane freak. He looked up to him after, having no one in his life that ever tried punishing him like that. Old Sarutobi was disappointed in them both and more annoyed when his grandson adopted Naruto's gadfly bluntness. Ibisu had given him an earful on several occasions because of it. With his choice of disguise, he entered the Hokage residence. The man was respected enough not to be questioned, so he adopted a frustrated demeanor to dissuade anyone from approaching. He cut through the complex, following directional signs, until he reached the library, which had two men standing in front. "Out of my way. Lord Konohamaru requires more material to read." They made odd faces but opened the door for him. He entered and dropped the attitude when he saw no one else inside. It was a pretty big room, even bigger than the Hokage's office. Shelves upon shelves of scroll were lined up in neat rows. If the scroll of seals wasn't on a giant display and giant itself, he'd have no idea where to look. "Old man Hokage, you need to work on your security." He lifted the scroll into his arms and saw strange inscriptions on the stand itself begin to grow. "Ah, shit." With a spin on his heel, he ran towards the door, which was now glowing with the same inscriptions. The two guards smashed it in with shuriken and kunai in hand. "Stop right there." He dispelled his transformation, letting a shuriken fly over his head while simultaneously blinding the two men. Naruto, knowing trying to get out the front door was suicide, did what came naturally. Jumping out of the nearest window. He landed on the first tiled roof level and hopped over the fence with a scroll in his arms and a shit-eating grin on his face. Some citizens looked at his glassy, grinning self to make faces, but he couldn't care less on his path to the woods. Naruto Uzumaki wasn't some worthless forever trainee. Hiruzen Sarutobi had his face in his hands. It wasn't every day someone infiltrated the heart of the Hidden Leaf Village and ran out with their scroll of invaluable dangerous jutsu. Just so happened that certain someone was reported to be Naruto Uzumaki, an ever-growing pain in his ass. Iruka stood before him with several other Chunin and a few Jonin. I just can't believe Naruto would do something like this. I know he's had his issues and he doesn't seem to respect anything, but he would never act against anyone unless provoked. Citizens have reported him running around with a scroll that fits the description of the Scroll of Seals, one Chunin said. The guards outside the library reported someone transformed as Ibisu taking it. They didn't see him jump out the window, but the citizens below confirmed it was Naruto. Toza Akimichi stepped towards Iruka. I know he's your student, but I heard what he did earlier today. That kind of outburst is done by someone at the end of their rope. When backed into a corner, no one is quite themselves. Just because you're close friends with a Yamanaka doesn't make you a certified psychologist, Iruka said. Violence, anger, and destructive outbursts are how he handles things. This thievery is insane. My army of trained and experienced assassins, spies, and mercenaries were outplayed by a 13-year-old orphan who intentionally distinguishes himself with non-stop crude insults, foul language, the color orange, and violence wherever he may be, Sarutobi said. His eyes looked at the crowd of ninja with disappointment. This entire scenario is insane, but I believe, under the machinations of a traitor, Naruto Uzumaki was instructed to steal the Scroll of Seals and told of its location. Folding his hands together, he took a deep breath. You are to bring me Naruto Uzumaki for questioning, retrieve the scroll, and capture whomever is responsible for this incident. They nodded and turned to move out, but froze as Hiruzen's presence alone seemed to choke the life from them. If Naruto Uzumaki dies by one of your hands, so help me, I will kill you myself. He relaxed. Now you are dismissed. The Hokage's office could not be vacated faster than it was that evening. Sarutobi looked up at one of the hanging Hokage portraits. I wonder if we ever meet again, will you forgive me? Forgive them all. He sighed. You sacrificed everything you could and they spat on what was left. How can I protect him when I have to protect them as well? He nearly laughed. That must have been how you felt before the end. It offered no words. The image of the man was as stalwart as he was in life. When one could do nothing, all that is left is to endure. Contrary to popular belief, Naruto was not an idiot. He simply voiced his first thoughts before properly vetting them. It was only when he doubled down was he acting stupid. Iruka noticed it. He was certain Shikamaru also knew it but never said it because it would only encourage that behavior, the reason why he didn't. Places he frequented were out of the question. The red light district was a good candidate but it was too populated. Naruto did not like being around other people, but he didn't like places that made him feel trapped. All that was left was the forests. And that's exactly where he found him, laying on the grass well covered in dirt next to a rolled out scroll by a scout shack. He lifted his upper body off the ground and smiled. Oh, Iruka-sensei. Naruto. He hopped down from a tree branch and stomped forward. What did you just call me Iruka-sensei? He grinned. My bad, simping dumbus. He stood up. In a really good mood right now, so it just slipped out. He flinched as Iruka smacked him over the head. Ow. You're the real Naruto. He blinked, looked at the Scroll of Seals, and focused back on the troublemaker. What the hell were you thinking? I was thinking of pissing everyone off, rubbing in everyone's faces that I'm the best shinobi ever, and learning a kick is forbidden jutsu. Iruka stared at the young man before him. It was the happiest he'd seen him, ever. While it wasn't as unnerving as his earlier self, it was still a lot to take in. Who told you about the scroll? Mizuki? Naruto laughed. He thought I'd buy this story about people stealing it, learning something, and graduating. Told you all he was a slimy fuck. I just went through with it to see if I could. He blinked. Probably should have played stupid, but I am feeling. He dropped down and swept his anger-blinded teacher's feet. Fucking demon brat. Iruka rolled to the side and up onto his feet, hands reaching for a kunai in his pouch. Watch your tongue, Mizuki. Why hide it at this point? Mizuki scowled and dodged a kunai, taking cover behind the trunk of a tree. Just look at him. He scoffed. Naruto. You were born 13 years ago. The day of the Nine Tails attack. The day Iruka's parents died. Frowning, Naruto dusted himself off. He already knew what the man was going to say. It was ancient history for him, but he didn't know about Iruka's parents. It was you. The fourth Hokage trapped the Nine Tails in a human body. You're the nine-tailed fox. Kill him. No, he said to both. Iruka moved to flank Mizuki. Don't listen to him. It's why everyone hates you. He prepared a shuriken for his former co-teacher. You're a freak. Naruto rushed to the other side, made a hand seal, and dogpiled the man with 8 other duplicates of himself while he was focused on Iruka. Shut up. The 8 Narutos took hold of Mizuki's limbs, each locked down by 2. Stupid. He stomped on the man's crotch before straddling the man's unprotected chest. Fucking idiot. Do I have fox ears and a tail? Do I have fur? Mizuki struggled against the clones but lacked the strength to break free. You have whiskers. His eyes glared at him like everyone else's. And he took that personally. Naruto jabbed his thumbs into Mizuki's eyes until blood sprang. Oh, just shut the fuck up. I'm sick of it. He pulled himself out of the ruined eye sockets and began wailing on the screaming Mizuki. Every single time. Every single day. The same fucking look. The same fucking words. He broke his nose, sending a gout of blood up that got on his whiskered cheek. You maggots have anything better to do with your meaningless fucking lives? Naruto, Iruka called out. I did nothing to you. Nothing. And you look at me like I'm a piece of shit. He knocked several of Mizuki's teeth out. Oh, I insulted you, how dare I when you spit in my fucking direction. His hook unhinged his jaw. You can say and think whatever you want, but I can't. Are you fucking kidding me? Iruka took a shaky breath as he stepped forward. Naruto. You lost someone so you can act in whatever shitty way you want. His knuckle fractured with his next 2 punches. Fuck. Off. It wasn't me. Damn it. Is that so fucking hard to understand? He kept punching the growing purple red that was Mizuki's face. Naruto, stop. Iruka reached out to grab him from the back, but an elbow in his gut sent him back. Is this what I have to do to all of you? Naruto laughed. Are you so fucking stupid I have to beat you until you listen? He laughed again. Just fine with me then. I can keep going. His laugh turned into a whimper. No matter how much I fail, I always get back up. Always try again and again and again and again and again. Tears sprang from his cheeks. Even though it's pointless. Even if it hurts. Even if I hate it. Iruka pulled him off and held him, even as he struggled against him. I know. The clones disappeared in clouds of smoke without Naruto in arm's distance, Mizuki well beyond neutralized. I know you do. He started crying as well. Naruto stopped struggling. I just hate this fucking place. I know, and I'm sorry. Iraku sat down with his student in his arms. They could rest in that forest for a time, but the village was waiting. Both shared a responsibility. In time, it was certain one would tire of it though. Iruka led Naruto back to the Hokage's office with a scroll of seals rolled up in his hands. Civilians and shinobi alike stared at the boy with even more than their usual disdain, to both their displeasure. When they entered the room itself, Sarutobi was alone behind his desk. The sun gave way to the moon some time ago, so they were illuminated by the stark office lights. Mizuki is the one who put him up to it, Iruka said. Where is he? The old man asked. Iruka swallowed a lump in his throat. Well, you see, I beat him to death, Naruto said, lifting half of his bruised knuckles for him to see. Sorry, old man. His apology was genuine. Iruka-sensei tried to stop me, but I was too angry. The Hokage folded his fingers together. Did he say anything about what he wanted with the scroll? No, he attacked us at the place we were supposed to meet. Why did you steal it for him? Naruto took a deep breath and sighed. I failed the academy exam. He told me I could pass by stealing the scroll of seals. He made something up about it being a forbidden test because students kept dying to your security. Said he'd present me to you and plead for you to make me a ninja. And you believed him? Oh fuck no, I stole it because I wanted to prove everyone wrong. I wanted to prove I was a great shinobi. He laughed, bitterness creeping out of it. But I guess no matter what I do, they'll always see me as the 9-tailed fox. Iruka hung his head, hoping to avoid the old man's gaze. I'm sorry, Lord Third. I failed to stop Mizuki from telling him. The fault does not lie with you. Sarutobi turned to the boy. You're Naruto Uzumaki, not the demon sealed within your being. Why did you never tell me? Your weapon, a deterrent against other villages with their own Jinchuriki. I wish to spare you more pain, but I fear in hiding the truth away I've only caused you more. He tilted his head ever so slightly at the sight of Naruto's eyes widening. You have every right to be angry with me. It wasn't you who did this. His eyes rose to the blonde-haired man in the lineup of Hokage, and his hands balled into fists. It was that yellow dipshit. Naruto. Hiruzen nearly flinched at a panic jump from the boy. It was never the Fourth's intention for others to hate you. He wanted you to stand guard like a good little dog for the village, for all those who despise you. He wanted you to be viewed as a hero. The man gave up his life for you as much as he did for the hidden leaf. He wanted to tell him the truth, but his son was likely to hate his father if he learned it now. Naruto scoffed. Funny how that turned out. Hiruzen lowered his head to gaze at his table for a moment before looking back up. Did you read the scroll? His expression grew more dire when he nodded. Did you write down anything from it? Did you attempt to perform any of the jutsu recorded within? No, and just one. He brought his fingers together and a copy of himself popped into existence to his left. The others asked for things I didn't have or know, the solid clone said before poofing out. Except for the shadow clone jutsu, I forbid you from speaking of or attempting anything you read from the scroll of seals. Am I still just a trainee after all that? Naruto asked, his demeanor returning to what it was during the final exams. They will make you a ninja eventually. Becoming a shinobi of the hidden leaf was never your choice. Sarutobi looked to Iruka. Has he met the qualifications? The man gulped and began rubbing the back of his head. Well, with the exception of his written tests, Naruto passed his transformation jutsu test, substitution jutsu test, and scored so high in his taijutsu, he nearly beat out a Hyuga for second place. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Hinata is better than me. He never really sparred with anyone other than Sasuke much. They were either too afraid he'd legitimately hurt them or worried they'd take the obsession away from Sasuke. The one time Hinata was chosen as his sparring partner she froze right when he punched, so he just walked away. A great deal of him wanted to test her now when he had time. His clone jutsu test Iruka trailed off as the lad created a shadow clone that pointed its thumbs at itself. He held back a laugh when his student poked the copy's face to confirm its solidity. Seems beyond any of his peers. A toothy smile adorned his face. He passed. Yes. They yelled in unison. One Naruto jumped onto and hugged Iruka, knocking the scroll out of his hands, while the other cleared the distance between himself and the Hokage. I did it. Naruto Iruka embraced the child back, unnerved yet pleased with his happy attitude. Sarutobi felt the weight in his chest lifted. I haven't seen you this happy since you were barely a boy. He hugged the child in return. In his heart, he hoped that side would re-emerge in time, but he doubted it would be the same. Iruka reached behind his head and undid the headband. Alright. He looked from his Naruto to the Hokages. Which one of you is the real one? Me? The Naruto clinging to him said. Traitor. The other one drew a kunai from his pouch and threw it into him, reducing him to a puff of smoke. Being the true usually foul-mouthed blonde, he let go of his surrogate grandpa and zoomed to his teacher. He was bouncing on the balls of his feet. You need to stand still if I'm going to put this on you. Iruka blinked as his delinquent dead last student switched from jumping in place to visibly shaking in excitement. He wrapped the headband around the blonde's head and tied it. You have morning orientation with the rest of the graduates. Don't be late. A nervous laugh left his lips when Naruto saluted him before running out of the Hokage's office, slamming the door behind him. That is the most excited he's ever been for class. He turned to the Hokage and froze at the tears streaming down his wrinkled cheeks. Lord Third. Sarutobi wiped away his tears. That was the first time I've seen Naruto smile sweetly in 6 years. He chuckled at an old memory of a day in the forest. Now, he has to maintain that happiness. You can hand over the scroll and go, Iruka. It's Naruto. He never gives up. He picked up the scroll, walked to the desk, set it down, and walked toward the door. The sensei's lips curved into a frown. Even if he wants to. He left without further word. The incident at the graduation exams for Iruka's class burned that day into the graduates' memories. It was the day their class's worst problem child had the most dramatic outburst of the entire generation. Needless to say, when they saw Naruto walking in and sitting down, humming a happy tune and smiling, they weren't just unnerved. Most were terrified. Sakura and Ino, having just walked in, saw him sitting at same table as Sasuke. Didn't he fail? He jumped out the freaking window, Ino whispered. Hinata, being closest to the door, frowned at their words before smiling at the sight of Naruto being innocently happy for once. Shikamaru was the smartest in the entire class and sat on the most distant edge, opposite of Hinata. He knew something happened. And he did not want to be near his detention buddy if something else came up as a result. Don't you want to sit with Sasuke? Sakura asked. Ino gave her a look and gave a glance at their would-be obstacle. Do you want to get through him? Met with a shake of her pink-haired friend's head, she nodded hers in understanding. Let's just sit where we can see Sasuke. Much to Hinata's displeasure, they began fighting over who got to sit next to her just for a view of their crush. She understood their desire, but it could have been far more quiet. Iruka walking in with a clipboard in hand thankfully put a stop to their childish bickering. As of today, Iruka began, you have all become full-fledged ninjas. Iruka-sensei. Sakura interrupted. She, from her safe distance, turned to and pointed at the false barrier between her and Sasuke. Why is Naruto here? The shut the fuck up please looks from her classmates injected unease into her words. He jumped out of the window. Her finger switched targets to the wooden placeholder that was where glass used to be. Well, you see, the Izuki was a traitor and I killed that slimy fuck. Naruto boasted, kicking his legs up on the table and cushioning the back of his head with his hands. Everyone's shocked or disbelieving eyes leveling on him gave a rush. He was a genin that took care of a chunin with ease and they could all suck on it. In one of the rooms of the Hokage residence, the Jonin of the Leaf Village authorized to take on Genin watched the events unfurl through Sarutobi's crystal ball, a conduit for a complex sealing jutsu placed in key areas of the village. This was their way of getting first impressions without letting their would-be students put up a facade. Some of them were already making a poor one. Naruto was one such student. So that's where Konohamaru is getting it from, Asuma Sarutobi said. His father, the Hokage, sighed. You are witnessing the best mood and attitude Naruto has had in 6 years. He grimaced along with his elite shinobi. There is kindness in him, albeit buried under anger and bravado. Asuma patted a masked ninja with his forehead protector covering his left eye on the shoulder. Good luck, Kakashi. The lack of response from him didn't bother. That was just how Kakashi had socially interacted with most people while focusing on something else entirely. Iruka sighed at Naruto interrupting him again. Just because the Hokage didn't say anything about keeping the incident under wraps doesn't mean you should tell everyone about it. I was answering Pink Forehead's question, Naruto excused. He wanted to make sure everyone knew. Everyone else here was thinking the same thing. They were just too much of a bunch of pussies to say it. Hinata hanging her head in shame went unnoticed by all, save the Jonin and Hokage spying, while the rest of the class relaxed somewhat at the return to his usual self. She then felt the need to disprove his words. What happened? Hinata yelled out, lifting her pink face. As Genin, you will be put in a squad of 3 and put on missions under the guide of Jonin. They've been briefed on the incident as it was a matter of high treason. Feel free to ask them. Iruka shook his head. The groups have been balanced to produce max efficiency. He looked at his clipboard and frowned. Team 7 will be Naruto Uzumaki, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto shared a look with Sasuke while Sakura felt conflicted. How the hell is that balanced? He sat straight. Didn't I make 3rd in Taijutsu? Iruka grimaced at the surprised faces of his students. You weren't supposed to know that or share that, and it's based on your overall grades. Yours were the worst and Sasuke's was the best. Oh well, that's fucking retarded. It's worked for over 100 years. He returned focus to his clipboard. Teammate will be Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, and Shino Aburam. Come on. You can't just say something like that and expect me to take this seriously. Hinata's the 2nd best at Taijutsu, and the mangy mutts I wanna say 5th. The hell I am, Dumbus. The face-marked boy yelled. He blinked and turned to look up to the blushing Hyuga. Hinata's 2nd. Naruto grinned. He knew there was no one else that could be 4th, but he wanted to push the dog boy. Oh yeah, I never knew the princess had it in her. The nervous tapping of the girl in question's fingers made him laugh. Kurenai raised an eyebrow at the blushing face in the crystal ball. She likes him. I received a complaint from 3 families that their children were beaten bloody by Naruto. When I looked into it, he did so because they were crowding around the girl and making her uncomfortable. Old man hears and smiled. There is kindness in him, he just expresses it in the most abrasive manner possible. Kiba growled. Then who got first? Naruto flinching told him all he needed to know. Oh, of course it was Sasuke. He smirked. Seems like Hinata's more of a rival for him than you will ever be. I'm not trying to shut the fuck up, mangy mutt. He pointed a finger at Hinata. After I'm done teaching him a lesson, you're next. That was not the wisest nor smartest thing to say, but he was too caught up in his emotions to check himself. That's enough out of the both of you. Iruka yelled, vein popping. He slammed his clipboard against his desk. Team 10 will be composed of Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Choji Akimichi. That is all for group divisions. In the afternoon, I'll introduce you to your Jonin leaders. Have a good lunch. You are all dismissed. Asuma chuckled. That Iruka needs to take up smoking. His father nodding in agreement made him laugh again. It's a bad habit, Kurenai said with a shake of her head. Think of the example you set for the children. And the one you set for hanging around those with the bad habit. Kakashi asked, finally saying something. Everyone present in the spying room had to restrain themselves from laughing when her face became as red as her would-be students. Knowing better than to say anything, she kept quiet. Her complexion told them all they needed to know already. Come on, Iruka-sensei. Kiba said, standing from his seat. Did I get 4th? Out? He pointed to the door. Yes, Iruka-sensei, he mumbled and obeyed, to Naruto's immense amusement. The blonde stood up and walked out into the aisle. Meet me outside, mangy mutt. Shaking his hooded head, the Inuzuka kept on his way. Like I'm going to give you what you want. He smirked at the delinquent's twitching eye. Fine. He turned to Kiba's female teammate. Hin. With a squeal, the girl jumped over heads and tables, reaching the door far before anyone else did. She opened it, walked through, and slammed it shut. Kiba tilted his head as he kept walking. There was a door right behind her. He laughed before walking out. He gave him his middle finger. Turning, he saw Sasuke jump onto the table behind him, rather than risk crossing him. You too. When I want to warm up my fists, I'll seek you out, Dumbus. Hunt, Naruto said with a smile. Outplayed, he scoffed and jumped toward the other exit. Sakura followed him out, but he ignored her. Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji were the last ones to leave after finally deciding on what to eat. Naruto was left alone with their sensei. What did I say? Naruto jumped over to him and hugged him. I'll fuck off. He separated from the man. Just wanted to do that one more time. Iruka, broken out of his anger, nodding made him laugh happily before he left. Hiruzen smiled at his crystal ball before the projection in it faded. As I said, there is kindness in him. Buried under bravado and anger, Kakashi finished. And this is the best he's been in years. He paid no attention to the old man smiled eyeing. Suppose I should check out my students' rooms now. I'll lead. He looked to the other jonin. I trust you can all find your own way. They nodded, so he nodded in turn. Come on, Kakashi. The man followed without a word. Both were in Naruto's apartment. It was their priority due to many factors, and it was unlikely to be visited by him in his downtime. The condition of the domicile wasn't exactly ruinous, yet it was still downtrodden. Clothes were strewn about. The boys' kitchen table was a clutter of unclean dishes. Worst of all, holes, indents, and cracks littered the walls. Kakashi's eye wandered about the scars left on the building. These are all handmade. By Naruto, yes. Sarutobi's face grew dire. I was not exaggerating when I said what you saw was Naruto in the best mood he's been in years. It really is that bad, huh? He looked at the old man. When he was a toddler, he seemed lonely with me, but he never threw tantrums. That was an innocent baby that did not understand why he was lonely in the first place. He threw pranks for attention, at first. Harmless annoyances. Then those pranks turned into insults. All of his happiness turned into anger. When people took his insults personally to the point of violence, he gave it back several times over, leaving even grown men bloody on the ground. Like Mizuki. Sarutobi nodded. There was nothing recognizable about his face when they retrieved his body. Iruka failed too and didn't want to mention just how bad Naruto took the news about being a Jinchuriki. Being made a genin may have appeased him for now, but he will come to realize the way of a shinobi is not fun and games. I fear the worst. Do you want me to pass him without a test? No. Fulfill your responsibility as a jonin and ensure the next generation is ready to fulfill their own. Just know that responsibility will include guiding Naruto away. The old man waved at the damaged walls. From this, if he passes. I will deal with him if he fails. Kakashi nodded. I understand. I won't fail him again. You're not talking about Naruto, are you? He moved to leave the apartment with one of his best jonin, but the silver-haired man did not answer. The rest of Team 7's morning was uneventful. Sasuke didn't want to interact with his teammates, Naruto didn't want to interact with his teammates, and Sakura couldn't find Sasuke to save her life. When they returned to the classroom, Sakura bombarded Sasuke with words, which ended when he told her she was annoying. It made the two classroom blondes snicker in tandem for the first time ever. Kurenai and Asuma entered the classroom together. She stopped earlier than he did to address her trio. Team 8, I am your leader, Kurenai Yuhi. Follow me. Asuma looked to his, a classic clan trio. Team 10, I am Asuma Sarutobi, your jonin. He looked to the last group. Team 7, expect to be here a while. You've gotta be fucking kidding me, Naruto said as he watched everyone else depart and laugh. Get used to it. Asuma led his three brats out of the door. It took nearly half an hour for the final jonin to walk through the front door. Kakashi walked to the center of the teacher's area and looked at them. Team 7. You son of a bitch. Naruto yelled. What the fuck did you have to do that was more important than this? A dark cloud was over me, so I had to take shelter in a steam lounge. What? Sakura asked, eye twitching. He raised a hand to stroke his masked chin, ignoring her question. I think I'm going to hate the three of you. Their combined looks did not faze him. He turned to the door and started walking. Let's get out of here. They followed their team leader out of the academy and onto the top of a nearby roof. Kakashi sat down on the railing while they seated themselves before him. Alright, introduce yourselves one at a time. You first, lazy ass, Naruto said, arms crossed. I'm Kakashi Haddock. He looked out into nothing. I don't want to tell you anything about what I like or dislike. I've never thought about any dreams for the future. As for hobbies, I have a lot of them. He focused back on them. Introduce yourselves the same way. That told us nothing but your name, Sakura said. If you're not going to pick. He looked at the boy in orange. You then. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like ramen, getting stronger, and proving myself. I hate almost everyone. My hobbies are training and learning new ways to insult people. He grinned. And my dream is to make everyone who ever looked down on me regret it. Kakashi's good eye closed while Sakura did her best to look away from her blonde teammate. It wasn't the worst case scenario, but it was still pretty bad. He opened his eye and looked at the nervous pink-haired girl. You. My name is Sakura Haruno. I like she looked at Sasuke and blushed. My hobbies are she twiddled her fingers together. My dream is. She squealed. And I dislike drifting off, she shivered. He doubted she'd last the first month. And lastly, my name is Sasuke. He folded his hands together. I have many dislikes, but I don't like anything particular. What I have isn't a dream but an ambition. I'm going to restore my clan and kill a certain man. It was just as he thought. Well, aren't you a unique bunch? Our first mission is tomorrow. Naruto nearly jumped. What kind of mission? Something all four of us can do together. Come on, you can at least tell us something, lazy ass. It's a survival exercise. Sakura frowned. I thought we were finally past all the exercises and ready for real missions. This is a special case. Kakashi felt the schadenfreude at Genin disappointment he typically enjoyed. He began laughing. Why are you laughing? Naruto asked. It's a final test with a failure rate of 66%. More than half of your class is likely to get sent back to the academy, and that includes you three. Are you fucking kidding me? Naruto jumped up onto his feet, shaking. I didn't bash Mizuki's face in just to be sent back with the trainees. What's even the point of the graduation test if you're going to pull this shit? It's theatrical. All meant to make you think you earned your position. That was to select candidates that have the potential to be Genin. He kept himself from laughing at the worsening expression on the boy's face. That's just how things are. I'll determine whether you pass or fail. Be at the practice fields at 5 a.m. The three of them quivered in their positions, each varying degrees of anxious, made him smile behind his mask. Don't have breakfast or you'll puke it out. You're dismissed. With a gust of wind, he disappeared. The three shared looks with each other before leaving. When they got to the field with their packs on their backs, they were alone. The sun wasn't quite up yet, but it was a certainty it'd be when their leader decided to show himself. They sat and stood with their backs to each other. Each was too concerned with their positions as Genin to care about talking. Kakashi arrived 2 hours later with his own pack. Morning everyone, he called out. You silver one-eyed lazy-ass cocksucker. Naruto stood up and yelled. Sakura scowled. You're late. The black cat crossed my path, so I had to take the long way. He coughed as they grumbled at him. Let's get started. He set down his back, took out a clock, and set it on a nearby post. It set for noon. Fishing out 2 bells from his pouch, he gave them a jangle. You have to take these from me. If you can't get them by noon, you won't get lunch. He pointed at the post. I'll tie you to those while I eat mine in front of you. Their stomachs growling nearly made him laugh. Wait a second, there's 3 of us. Sakura held out 2 fingers. How come there's only 2 bells? That way at least one of you will get tied to a post, disqualified, and sent back to the academy. All 3 of you could flunk though. He ignored their uneasy expressions. You can use any weapon. If you're not prepared to kill me, you won't be able to take the bells. Naruto's eyes narrowed. And what happens if one of us kills you? An interesting question, but it can only exist as a hypothetical. None of you have what it takes to actually kill me. He smirked beneath his mask at Naruto and Sasuke's shared expression. When I say start, we begin. He gave the bells a jangle. Okay, start. 2 of the 3 ran into the foliage, leaving Naruto standing alone in front of Kakashi. Really? You're no A-thrown kunai made him duck for a moment. Naruto rushed in with a punch, which only met air as Kakashi leaned away. He shifted his extended arm and pivoted his foot to elbow him in the stomach, but he jumped back. So you are good. He turned his body to face his jonin. After killing Mizuki, I was thinking maybe ninja weren't hot shit after all. Mizuki was a Chunin rusted from years behind a desk. Kakashi reached into his pouch. Shinobi Battle Techniques Part 1. Taijutsu. He pulled out an orange book titled Make Out Paradise, with a depiction of a man chasing a woman and began reading. A cry of seething rage nearly pulled him out of it. He ducked under a kunai just in time to see one pop out his novel. Looking up, he saw Naruto winding a right punch. He swayed to the side to nearly catch a left roundhouse to the face he avoided by bending back at an awkward angle. He popped back up, shut it best he could, and returned it along with the kunai to his pouch. He jumped to a nearby tree branch to avoid a gut punch and took cover behind it as Naruto began throwing shuriken. Okay, you know Taijutsu. Get down here, you son of a bitch. I'm not going to stop until I take out your good eye. Then why would I get down? Fuck you, smartass. He glared at Kakashi as the man shook his head and disappeared into the forest. Shaking his own, he stomped over. Pulling out smut in the middle of a gleam at the bottom of the tree where Kakashi stood attracted his eye. He made a shadow clone, who approached and got snatched up by a rope trap. Bitch, please. The clone vanished with a poof. Kakashi zoomed by and grabbed the bell, ducking under another kunai. He slipped back into the forest. And here I heard you had the worst grades in your class. Class, ass. Everyone knows grades are nothing but nonsense that don't matter outside of the academy. The lack of a response rightfully worried him, so he made several shadow clones. He walked back to the training area surrounded by 5 other Narutos and sat down while they stood guard. A girlish cry from the forest made him wince. Sakura. He shook his head and started tapping his right finger on one of his left knuckles. After a few seconds, it started speeding up. He took several deep breaths and began shaking. The other copies also began quivering. I don't want to go back. Never want to go back. Son of a bitch, why even have this test? I killed that slimy fuck Mizuki, infiltrated the Hokage library, and ran off with vital information while no one could do jack shit. Doesn't that mean anything? The other Narutos nodded and patted him on the back and shoulders. So eager to be an obedient lapdog. He shook his head at the voice. This is the only way. Another girlish scream broke his attention. Oh, for fuck's sake. He stood up with his posse of himself and marched in the direction of the cry. It didn't take long for him to come across an unconscious Sakura and Sasuke up to his neck in dirt. Half of the Narutos stared at Sakura while the other half stared at Sasuke. The Uchiha shot them a miserable look. Hey. He groaned as the group of Narutos burst into laughter. Can you get me out of here? What's in it for me? A Naruto asked. Yeah, another one spoke up, what do I get out of it? Some other gave him a snide look. I know you don't like me. Those are real clones. Sasuke furrowed his brow. You weren't even capable of a fake one. He nearly bit his lip when their expression soured. I'll help you out against Kakashi and we both can pass rather than get kicked back to the academy. The Narutos shared looks with each other before shrugging. Okay, but I'm going to tell everyone about this whenever I want and there is nothing you can do about it. The clones took out their kunai and stabbed into the ground around Sasuke. Soon enough, he could wriggle out on his own. Dusting himself off, the boy in blue took a deep breath. How did you last this long? He started walking to the main area. The Narutos followed, guarding the real one. He pulled out a book in the middle of a fight and I almost roundhoused him in the face after putting a kunai through it. Why didn't you take the bell instead of going for a kick? Well, one said. Another rubbed the back of his head. Shut up. Sasuke shook his head. That anger of yours is a glaring weakness. When they passed into the practice field, they saw Kakashi waiting for them in the middle, fiddling with his ruined book. The man's good eye focused on them. Oh hey Sasuke. He glanced at the men beside him. Naruto, 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 and Naruto. Hey Kakashi. One Naruto greeted back before being punched out of existence by both the real Naruto and Sasuke. Oh, I like that one. His eye narrowed. Where's Sakura? The shared look the two gave him was something he could sympathize with, however much he disagreed with. Yeah, I know. There is a lot she needs work on. But really? You're just going to leave her behind? Why should we save that raving simp? Naruto asked. I haven't even seen a fucking bruise on her. Sasuke nodded. She's useless and fainted at the first sight of me. Well, congratulations. Kakashi shouted in a happy tone, getting them both to smirk. You both failed. Naruto's clones disappeared, leaving him alone and shaking. What? You can't possibly mean that. Sasuke's hands balled into fists. I am an excellent shinobi. Kakashi's eyes bore into them shinobi. All I see in front of me are two brats who are worse than scum. People who would abandon their comrades. Say what you will about the Dumbus, but I'm no. He's failing both of us and you're still throwing me over the exploding paper tag, Naruto said aloud, not even registering it. Oh please, you never actually tried for anything other than the basic qualifications to graduate from the academy. I was actually at the top. I was the best. He'd been saving it for a rainy day, but he was beyond caring at that point. And you're still nothing compared to Itachi. It took several seconds for his words to settle before he dodged a hasty punch aimed at his face. Kakashi was between them and choking them both out in seconds with one arm each. Sakura muttered, wandering back into the field and rubbing her eyes. How long was I out? She asked no one in particular. Her eyes blinked and widened once she saw the Jonin hefting the two unconscious boys over his shoulders. Kakashi turned to her and have an eye smile. Oh, hey. You're going to have lunch all for yourself before noon. Did we fail? He walked over to the posts and set the two down. I haven't decided yet. He took out his rope and tied Naruto to the middle and Sasuke to the right. When they came to, he greeted them with an eye smile as well. Well if it isn't my sleeping pieces of shit. He opened his eye at the seething blue one. You're eager to abandon your allies. Even when you did partner with someone, you thought nothing of them. And all it took to send you off into a blind rage was comparing you to someone. If Naruto was even serious, he could have knocked you out and killed you then and there. His eye switched to the shaking orange one in question. And you? Where to start? Attacking your opponent on your own without even trying to hide. Fantastic way of getting yourself killed. Same as provoking your own allies. What are you hoping to win with that anger and attitude of yours? All you're making is enemies. He turned to make Sakura gulp. You continue what you're doing and accomplish it like you already have. Nothing. The girl hung her head. I'm sorry, Kakashi-sensei. Apologize to yourself. He slammed his hand down on the timer before walking out to look at them all in the same disappointed manner. None of you think like ninja. You think like immature children. His eye glared at the struggling two. You think it's all about you. None of you know what it means to be a ninja. On every mission, your life is on the line. He walked back to the monument behind him. Did any of you bother looking at this stone? The names engraved on it. They are all ninja honored as heroes in our village, all killed in action. He frowned beneath his mask. The names of my closest friends are engraved here. He turned back to face the three. I'm going to give you all one last chance, but it's going to be even harder for you. Eat up now so you'll have strength later. His one eye blinked as he approached. Oh wait, only Sakura can, and Sakura can't give any to either of you or she'll be disqualified. Enjoy, Sakura. He took out the bento boxes from his pack and handed them both to her. I'll be back. He made the tiger seal and vanished. Sakura opened up one of the boxes. What happened while I was gone? She grimaced as the boys looked away from each other. Come on, what's the harm in telling me? Knowing Naruto blabbered about most things, she focused her eyes on him as she started munching. His shaking had only gotten worse since Kakashi declared they failed. Naruto, what's wrong? Nothing. He thrashed against his bindings. Nothing is fucking wrong with me, you useless pink-haired bitch. Why are you even here? You can't fight for shit. If you ever got attacked by chakra-less bandits, they'd bend your dead or dying ass over and see if the carpet matches the drapes while they're pounding away. Tears swelling in the girl's eyes made him and Sasuke cringe. Naruto, Sasuke said. Oh, don't you fucking start with me, gloomy cocksucker. You're only saying anything because you know she's going to cry otherwise. Not because you actually disagree or give a shit. Sakura saw the "you're right but please shut up" look in Sasuke's eyes and started bawling. Look, Sakura. The Uchiha took a deep breath and sighed. I am not ready nor interested in a relationship. Right now, I want to get stronger so I can fulfill my ambition. We can do that together and maybe something might come of it. But I'm not ready yet. He looked to Naruto. Whether you like it or not, he and Kakashi have a point. Your abilities are lacking. You and I can work on that, or you and he can, though you probably don't want to right now. Her sobbing began to stop as she nodded in understanding. Naruto looked up at the sky, wishing to get lost in it. Why did Itachi do what he did? He heard the news long ago. Many people refused to talk about it directly, but he heard enough. Itachi Uchiha, the prodigal genius, wiped out his entire clan. Bringing it up to old man Tsurutobi only made him shake his head in sadness. Sasuke kept silent at that. It was an excellent question he didn't want to think about. Good thing he was tied to a post, or he'd be able to punch the question out of his mind through literally punching Naruto. Who's Itachi? Sakura asked, voice still shaky. His brother, Naruto answered. Can we not talk about this now? Sasuke asked before his stomach growled. Naruto's stomach following suit relieved him of embarrassment. Sakura, can you feed us? She frowned. But you heard what Kakashi said. Her eyes glanced at Naruto. And I don't really feel like feeding him. Do you think either of us will be able to help you without a full stomach against one-eyed lazy ass going even harder at us? Naruto asked. It's fail or fail at this point, may as well go down together and in style. He's right, Sasuke admitted. We'll hand you our ninja tools to use. The Dumbus and I can pressure him with our Taijutsu, but we need food first. It's not like Kakashi's here. Sakura hummed and nodded. Alright. If we fail together at least. She gathered some rice together in a ball. Holding it out for Sasuke, she smiled. Open up. She giggled as he reluctantly obeyed. As for Naruto, she just shoved the thing into his mouth with her bare hands. And then Kakashi appeared in front of them, absolutely livid. What did I say? He made a hand seal. That food was meant for only Sakura. The girl in question swallowed a lump in her throat. Oh, what's the point? I can't beat you alone, and they can't beat you without me feeding them. At least this way, we fail together. Fail together, he relaxed his hands. You pass. What? Naruto asked. You passed, Kakashi said again. How? Sakura asked. He gave an eye smile. You're the first squad that's actually succeeded my test. Everyone else fell into every trap. A ninja must see through deception. Those that break the rules followed by ninja are scum, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than scum. He gave them a dramatic thumbs up. Everyone passes. Team 7 has its first mission tomorrow. All three relaxed. Kakashi drew a kunai and cut the two boys loose, letting them drop. I hope you've taken today's exercise to heart. He collected his clock. Naruto collapsed to the floor as his two teammates and squad leader walked away. I'm just going to take a nap right here. Make sure to be at your place tomorrow morning. I will. He trailed off, more than mentally exhausted. It was one thing to have immediately failed his graduation exam. Really, smashing through a panel of glass was a more pleasant experience than being threatened with going back to the academy. He hoped tomorrow was a better day. Unfortunately for him, he'd be met with more disappointment. The day after Team 7's final test was without a doubt one of the most disheartening days of their entire lives. About half a decade spent learning the way of the ninja finally amounted to the equivalent of being a neighborhood good Samaritan except paid and for the entire village. Kakashi had to make Sasuke promise to train with Naruto after their first job was done to calm him down. He even took all three to Ichiraku since Sakura wanted whatever Sasuke wanted and Sasuke was too much of a downer to like anything. The two had to watch Naruto interact with people who actually appreciated him, which they couldn't help but find odd. Ever since, the team would take some time afterward to train or go over tactics. Kakashi was often busy helping Sakura and her fundamentals, while the boys went at it without academy regulations holding them back. That unfortunately led to the current situation of Naruto nearly breaking Sasuke's arm in a hold he mistakenly thought he could shimmy out of. The blonde raised an eyebrow at a crack, followed by a choked breath. Oh shit. He let go and stood up from their positions on the ground to dust himself off. Does this mean I win? Kakashi body flickered over. Sasuke, when your opponent has you in a full hold, you're not going to get out. He knelt down and reset the boy's elbow, causing him to grunt. I recommend stabbing, but that's out of the equation in sparring. Picking him up to his feet, he stood up. Just don't get caught in a hold if you value both your life and the ability to use hand signs in short notice. Why don't they teach that in the academy? Sasuke asked, taking in deep breaths. Picture what just happened to you but with actual broken bones and crying. He looked from him to Naruto. After watching you two fight a few times, I think I understand your main failings. You two are so used to each other you've fallen into roles. Attacker and defender, when you should be both. He crossed his arms. Naruto, you're too aggression-focused when your bouncy footwork is fantastic for defense. He glanced at the other. Sasuke, you're too defensive when your flat-footedness is perfect for heavy blows and efficient strikes. Naruto's stamina is superior to yours, so being defensive will only wear you down, though your flat feet does conserve stamina. He gave an eye smile at their contemplative faces. They're reacting to each other more than trying to win over the other. Naruto hummed before glancing at Sasuke. Can you still fight? He smiled at a nod and lifted a fist inches from his lips, letting the other rest by his hip. When they resumed their footwork, he weaved away from a surprise punch before hopping back from a low kick. Nice. He closed in for a punch, but was forced back again by another kick that scraped his thigh. Sakura watched Kakashi walk away from the two towards her. They're really on another level, huh? She gulped. Naruto already beat a Chunin. Izuki was below average as far as Chunin go, but he is around that range. Sasuke too. He chuckled at her shaking. Relax. It takes more than just Taijutsu to become a Chunin or a good ninja. Those two need to fight more than just each other to get better. Can I do anything they can't? Kakashi hummed. I guess I can try teaching you a little trick right now. Remember that image of Sasuke dying you saw at the practice field? Sakura smiled, trying hard not to blush. The one I fainted at. Yeah, I can show you how to do that. He made the snake and rat hand signs. Make sure to be close but not touching your target. Think about your worst fear and it'll draw theirs out. A basic ninjutsu. Useful as a distraction, which is all you really need. I smiled. Try it on me. Is that okay? I know you're going to use it, I know how to break out of ninjutsu, and I already know what I'm most afraid of. Go ahead. He gave a nod of encouragement as she went through the seals. When he saw the faces of his dead comrades, the fourth Hokage, a red-haired woman, and a dying Team 7 looking at him with disgust, he gave a thumbs up. Nice job. He made a hand seal and the image disappeared. That was the Death Mirage Jutsu belonging to the demonic illusion line of Ninjutsu. Who the hell named it that? Your guess is as good as mine, but he probably used it on someone who was terrified of dying. He took out his new copy of Makeout Paradise. Now let's work on your Taijutsu. Sakura sighed before putting her fists up. It was another afternoon training with Team 7. The four of them were back at the mission assignment desk within the Ninja Academy. They were getting paid for retrieving the Fire Daimyo's wife's cat. She was choking the life out of it, but only Sakura really cared. The Hokage and Iruka sat behind desks along with other officials. Sarutobi held out and looked over a scroll list. Next on the agenda is hell, so help me. Naruto yelled and stepped forward, making Kakashi restrain him from behind. If I'm sent out to help one more ungrateful cunt who can't even be bothered to do anything themselves, I'm going to tie them up and burn their house down with them in it. Iruka slammed his hand down on his desk. You are in the presence of the Hokage and Madame Shijimi. As a genin, you are restricted to D and C rank missions for you to build up your skills, so you'll be ready for the B and A rank missions. Bullshit. Simple fucking chores. I killed Mizuki, damn it. Doesn't that mean anything? Kakashi shifting his hold from an armbar to a choke only made him angrier. Let him go, Sarutobi commanded. He frowned as the boy stumbled forward and stopped. You did me a service by stopping Mizuki, but I will not give you nor your team special treatment for it. This what all of your peers have been doing. Naruto took a deep breath and sighed. Then at least give us something, old man. How are we supposed to get any better if we don't actually have real experiences? Sarutobi took a puff of his pipe. You're not wrong. Since you're so determined, I'm going to give you a C-rank mission. You'll be bodyguards on a journey. Really? Naruto began bouncing on the balls of his feet to the discomfort of his teammates and joy of the old man. Is it a princess of feudal art? Don't get your hopes up. He looked to a side door. Send him in. The door slid open for an old man, bottle in hand and pack on his back, to walk out. What the? A bunch of snot-nosed kids. He resumed downing the bottle. Ah fuck, Naruto said, voicing his teammates' thoughts as he usually did. He took another gulp and lowered it. I'm Tazuna, a master bridge builder, and I must return to my country, the land of waves. I'm building a bridge there that will change many things, and I expect you to get me there safely, even if it means giving up your life. You heard the man. Sarutobi yelled. Get to it. Ejected again, Team 7 obeyed their highest office, escorting the man to the front of the village gates with no incident. Naruto jumped in joy when they were more than some distance out. We're leaving. We're leaving. He turned to the mostly confused party. We're actually leaving. Only for a while, Kakashi said. The grimace on the boy's face as realization struck made him worry. Am I really supposed to entrust my life to this runt? Tazuna asked. You're right. Naruto smirked. I'll just walk out of the way when the bandits come and let them make you mincemeat, limp geezer. Naruto, we're being paid to protect him. He looked at the stunned man. You do want him to protect you, right? A nod gave him exactly what he wanted. Good. Let's get going. They ventured further along the path. While everyone else was focusing on the road, Naruto's eyes wandered. It really was something he was unused to. The lack of any giant walls in the distance made him feel like he could run around forever. Best of all, there was no one other than Bridge Builder around to give him that stupid look everyone else had. So long as you live in that village, you will always be despised. It was some time before they crossed a strange puddle. The oddity of it fell beneath all but one of their notice. Several more feet down the road, Kakashi was bound by bladed chains and apparently torn apart with no blood to be seen by two men wearing respirators, using odd claw gauntlets. Naruto, hearing a rattling chain behind him, jumped back and spun to kick the closest to him in the side of his face. A shuriken thrown by Sasuke stopped the other from rushing him and lodged the chain in a tree. While he socked his in the jaw, he saw a kunai secure the shuriken's hold by embedding itself in the tree through the shuriken's singular hole. They dislodged the chain from their gauntlets, circled around, and made a charge for the bridge builder, who Sakura was now guarding with her body, only for Kakashi to snatch them by the necks, choking them unconscious with only one arm each. Hey, Naruto protested. You already got 2 good hits in. Do you really think he would have put up much more of a fight? For emphasis, he dropped their limp bodies. His one good eye turned to Tazuna. When you put in your request, you asked for standard protection against common thugs. He kicked one. These are ninja with a hidden mist village. They went straight for you after thinking the main threat, was gone. They even laid in wait in the form of a puddle in an area where it obviously hasn't rained in weeks. If we continue on, we're likely to encounter even more enemy ninja, elevating this into a B-rank mission. Sakura swallowed a lump in her throat. We should go. The unfazed expressions of her 2 other squad mates told her that was not an option in their eyes. I'm on, pink forehead. Naruto grinned. Don't you want to make that bitch Ino jealous? That's all he needed to say. Well, duh. She blushed at her outburst. I mean, I don't want to die, but I do want to see her squirm. Kakashi laughed. Then it settled. We're in this until the end. He resumed walking yet paused when the sound of flesh being cut open reached his ears. Turning his head, he saw Naruto knelt over and slitting the throat of one of the Chunin. They all stared at him, so he stared back. What? He stood up and held the bloodied kunai loosely in his hand, the wrist part of his sleeve covered in blood. We weren't seriously just going to leave them here, right? He stepped towards the other one, but a kunai throw from Kakashi skewered the Chunin's throat. Come along, the Jonin said. He was debating between sparing or carrying them along to interrogate when they woke up. The hidden mist didn't take failure lightly, so they were screwed regardless. If they were missing ninja, they were dead men walking too. Naruto's decision was tactically sound, as they could have followed to attack again or escaped if left strung up, but his casualness was disturbing. And so they journeyed onward. It took some time until they arrived at the closest thing to a border, the body of water keeping the land of waves isolated from the mainland. The ferryman that took them on a boat was a shady sort, but he knew Tazuna and they were unfamiliar with the location. Naruto's eyes widened at the partially made huge structure supported by massive pillars sunk into the river. Holy shit. Quiet down, the ferryman whispered as loud as he could. Why do you think we're traveling in this mist? Rowing instead of using an engine? Kakashi looked at Tazuna. I need to know who is after you before we meet the pier. If you don't tell us, I'll have to end the mission after we drop you off. The shipping magnate Gato, he said. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You say that name like we should know it. He's one of the richest men in the world, Kakashi elaborated. And he's also a corrupt drug trafficking crime lord, Tazuna spat. He cut off transportation and shipping to the land of the waves a year ago, bleeding our wealth out and having anyone who tried to stand up to him killed. But, if we complete the bridge, his hold over us will be shattered. Sakura raised a hand to her chin. Why become a crime lord if you're already rich? Why not? Naruto asked. So, Kakashi said, ignoring them both, you claimed it was a C-rank mission because you lacked the money in a last desperate hope. Tazuna nodded. If you leave me alone, I'll be assassinated before I can complete the bridge. Nothing to worry about, my grandson will only cry his heart out for his beloved grandfather. And my daughter will blame you for abandoning her father in his time of need. He waved it off. Oh well, it's not your fault. And people tell me I have a shitty attitude, Naruto grumbled. Sasuke maintained his usual cool expression, though he felt the urge to twitch his brow. We were already going to continue with the mission. Take it as incentive, Kakashi said with an eye smile. They eventually made it out of the mist to see the land of the waves proper, a not quite connected landmass with rivers snaking throughout the entire thing. Trees with snake-like trunks sprouted from the water. It was a beautiful sight most of them appreciated. Tazuna's friend left right after they stopped at the pier. Trouble steered its head when they were far into a forest path by a river. Naruto looked to a bush on their right, frowned, drew a kunai from his pouch, and threw it. We're not alone. He put his fists up and walked towards the foliage with Sakura in tow, Sasuke covering the bridge builder with Kakashi. The pink-haired girl cooed at the side of a shivering white bunny with a kunai implanted in the tree behind it, centimeters away from a vital spot. It's just a rabbit. Damn, I was aiming for its head. He raised an eyebrow at her worried expression. What is up with you guys? He heard the others approach while he took the kunai out and back into his pouch. The white rabbit? Kakashi asked. His eye narrowed. Let's step back into the clearing. Feeling the implicit tone in his voice, the three surrounded the bridge builder without showing they were on guard. He took point as the most qualified ninja and looked around. The faint sound of leaves being cut some ways from their back told him all he needed. Get down. He ducked while the others dropped, all avoiding a swift group decapitation. Looking up, he saw a bandage-faced man standing on the hilt of a bizarre, brutal-looking giant sword embedded into a tree. Everyone else stood up as he did. Well. If it isn't Zabuza Mamachi, the rogue ninja. Finally, someone else to fight. Naruto punched a fist into an open palm and walked forward, but Kakashi blocked his way with an arm. Oh, come on. This man is beyond your current level of ability. He put his other hand on his forehead protector. And if I have to worry about you four, I have to go all out. Zabuza shifted to look down properly at the other jonin. I suppose this is an honor. He lifted his hairless brow at the red eye with 3 commas overlapping a ring around the pupil. Never seen the Sharingan up close. The beast in Naruto stirred when he saw a glance's worth of it from his position. Disgusting thing. Power through deception, weakness, and thievery. An unworthy successor. Manji formation. Kakashi ordered, snapping Naruto out of it. The 3 genin got in front of Tazuna with their kunai out. Under their team leader's orders, they stood by and watched. Kakashi seemed to be doing well at first, saving them from Zabuza and his concealing mist. But one well-aimed kick and a jutsu put the silver-haired man in a water prison over the lake. This is the copycat ninja, huh? The hidden mist shinobi asked while performing a one-handed water clone jutsu, his other maintaining the steel-strong water. I underestimated you and just how rusty I am, Kakashi admitted. He was debating trying to break out with his signature jutsu, but Zabuza likely knew to keep his water jutsu unpurified, and he was on top of a large body of water. Naruto hand sealed a dozen other hymns into existence. Alright, let's go. They cheered and drew shuriken from their pouches. Run away. Tell me that after you beat no brows. One Naruto said. Oh wait, another chimed in. You're his prison bitch. They threw their weapons. Clone Zabuza shielded his body with his awkward-looking sword as he advanced. I don't know whether to kill you first or last. Naruto. Keep at it. Sasuke drew a shuriken of his own and narrowed his eyes at the openings in the sword. If he could put a kunai through a shuriken, he could put a shuriken through what was meant for a human head. The stream of weapons made is indistinguishable, letting it puncture the clone's leg with no attempt to maneuver out of. Zabuza, seeing the throwing weapons focus on him, jumped back more than a few feet and started making hand signs to deal with the released Kakashi, who started copying him. Sakura felt useless and angry at that fact, so she made the 2 hand signs their leader taught her. She was out of the range he said was necessary. However, she remembered the silver-haired man looked her in the eye when he did it. There must have been some other measure to determine range, even if she didn't know it. Come on. She whispered, concentrating on the distant dots of Zabuza's eyes. Everyone's scared of something. For the briefest of moments, the demon of the mist paused at an agonizing scream that should have been impossible. A dragon composed of water crashed into him as realization struck, driving him into a nearby tree. Yeah. The Narutos cheered. Get fucked. Kakashi drew a kunai from his pouch and prepared to finish the fight before two needles beat him to it. He kept the kunai up as he approached the body, rightfully cautious. Hunter Nin, he said upon sight of a young figure wearing a hidden mist Anbu mask on a tree branch. Naruto's clones disappeared when he approached with the others. What the fuck was that? He pointed a finger at the stranger. Who the hell do you think you are? Calm down, Naruto, Kakashi said, leaning over to check Zabuza's pulse with his free hand. The fight is over. He's dead. Because this asshole swept in after we did all the work. He patted the blonde on the head, which calmed him a little. And you did good. He smiled at the other two. All three of you did. Repositioning his forehead protector to cover his Sharingan, he focused on Sakura. I'm surprised you were capable of using that Ninjutsu from that distance. Excellent chakra control. Are we not going to talk about this douchebag? Naruto asked, pointing his thumb at the young man taking hold of Zabuza's corpse. That's a hunter nin, Sakura began. Their ninjas specialize for tracking down other ninja that have gone rogue. She raised an eyebrow as the subject in question disappeared with a body flicker. But she drifted off as her vision grew wobbly. She fell into Sasuke's waiting arms. Chakra exhaustion, Kakashi informed before any could panic. Extending a short-range jutsu to a great distance, however simple, means expending more chakra to do so. He pointed to Naruto when the Uchiha tried to pass off the girl. Sakura has great chakra control, but low reserves to draw from. Naruto shook his head when offered her. You're fulfilling one of her dreams right now. And you can make shadow clones, Sasuke said, frowning. Come on, don't you want to reward her for doing something? He smirked. I'm doing it right now through you. Kakashi cleared his throat. Our mission isn't over yet. The bridge builder needs to complete his bridge. All of you can rest at my house, Tazuna said. We're not that far now. They reached the dainty fisherman's shack shortly after. Tsunami, Tazuna's daughter, defaulted to her maternal instincts at the sight of an ill child. Sakura was tucked into a futon with a warm towel over her forehead and a cup of tea in arm's reach in a matter of minutes. Kakashi, Sakura called out. Something was weird about that ninja. She whined in exhaustion. He, sitting some ways from her against a wall, nodded. You noticed it too, huh? He didn't dispose of the body right then and there according to protocol. They even used needles, ones that weren't long or thick enough to pierce deeply. Zabuza is probably alive, Sasuke said, narrowing his eyes. Naruto scoffed. I knew something was wrong with that asshole. At least this way, we get to kill them both. He scowled as they gave him looks. Okay, what is it? You've been looking at me like gritting his teeth, he clenched his hands into fists. Come with me, Kakashi said before rising from his seat. Pursing his lips, the boy followed his team leader out and onto the pier. What? He grumbled as they went to the farthest end towards the forest. What? Kakashi spun around, his eye bearing no emotion. What are you thinking behind your anger, right now? Where is this actually coming from, and what is it you really want to ask me for going all of it? Oh fuck off, lazy ass one eye. Shouldn't you be preparing for Zabuza's conjugal? Neither one of you should be satisfied after last time. You insult others to feel better about yourself. His eye narrowed. Your attitude serves to defend your ego, affirm it, attract attention, and vet the people around you. Except you're so used to having it on, you continuously test everyone who even somewhat accepts you, people who just want to see you happy. As Naruto stepped back, he stepped forward, pressuring him. When you are happy, there is little left of that attitude, and it's as if an entire different person was wearing your skin. He knew his observation was perfect when the boy's back hit the wall of the house, and he began shivering. This is the real you. Oh, I like this one. Shut up. Naruto grimaced before slumping down. He looked away from his one-eyed gaze. Am I really that awful to be around? A head pat made him flinch. We're just concerned you may actually and do something disastrous in the future off impulse. You are grating at times, but it's that quality that's gotten you this far. Kakashi gave an eye smile. It's what led to the three of you helping me get the drop on Zabuza. The Nine Tails growled as Naruto's face became a rosy pink. At least it might be fun watching him die. Oh, just shut up. Naruto blinked at the realization he responded aloud again. I mean it, Kakashi said. Now, let's go back inside. There's a training exercise I want you and Sasuke to perform before we're attacked again. He led his genin back to the shack. Inside, Naruto raised an eyebrow at a confused Sasuke. You look like he stopped himself. You look shit. The Uchiha made a face as Kakashi gave a thumbs up of approval at the babiest of steps. Tazuna's grandson came by, told us we're going to die, and went into his room. Colorful kid, their sensei said. I've got a training exercise for the two of you. Since Sakura already has excellent chakra control and is suffering from a lack of it, just going to be you boys. When Sasuke stood, he started leading them out. He glanced at Tsunami. I leave her care in your hands." A nod from her relieved his worries. They walked out into the woods, but not too far they couldn't rush to Tazuna's residence in short notice. Kakashi showed them he could walk up trees without his hands and instructed them to do the same. Both dejected faces when the wood exploded beneath their feet made him laugh. When he saw them starting to improve somewhat without his pointers, he left them to their own devices. Seeing who could get farther and last longer became a competition, just like their Taijutsu practice. It even extended to dinner after Kakashi came back from town shopping with Tazuna. Sakura's eyes wandered over to a ripped-hung picture as she sipped her tea remedy. Is that picture supposed to be torn? She looked to a frozen Inari. You've been looking at it all throughout dinner. It's my husband, Tsunami answered flatly. Tazuna stared at his empty plate. They used to call him a hero in this land. He didn't look up to watch his grandson scramble out of the kitchen. Neither did he look when his daughter ran off after him. What happened? Sakura asked. The old man told them about Inari's adoptive father, Kaiza. He saved the boy from drowning and does that remind you of someone? The beast chuckled. Pathetic, Naruto said. He sat unfazed as their eyes turned to him. Dying over people who wouldn't do the same for him. Even if you build that bridge, you'll still have problems if you're pushed around so easily. The problem with your country is something other than Gedo. Tazuna hummed. You're not as dumb as you look, kid. Even though you do look like something from a carnival with that getup. What's wrong with orange? It's the jacket. Sakura scoffed and then coughed. That white collar is a fashion disaster. The bagginess makes it easier for people to grapple, Sasuke commented and immediately regretted. Kakashi gave a wistful sigh. To be a young genin obsessed with being fashionable again. This coming from the guy wearing a mask and using his forehead protector as an eye patch. Naruto shot him a look. Ever hear of trying too hard? It's not my fault I am too beautiful and require a convenient eye patch. Shaking his head, he rose from his chair. I'm going to go practice more. Sasuke finished what was left in his bowl and followed without a word, leaving an envious Sakura alone with the amused silver-haired men. The two competed in tree climbing until the sun was more than down. First thing they did the day afterward, excluding eating breakfast, was tree climbing. Naruto attempted small talk with every fall in the methodology he saw employed by normal people. To Sasuke, it was like a feral cat attempting civil conversation. Leaf Village is toasty compared to this damp shy. He stopped and took several other breaths. Shimmy place. You don't have to hold back. It's just the two of us, Sasuke finally responded. Would rather see you jump out another window than hear you talk about the weather. Naruto groaned. Oh thank fuck. Another second of that and I was going to slam my head against a tree. He frowned. Why do I get the feeling I'm going to hear a lot about that window thing? The Nine Tails roared in laughter at the memory. Because you are the first student to ever jump out of it after failing a graduation test. Years of being the class punk loser no one wanted anything to do with and almost everyone was afraid of. Sasuke almost cringed at the memories of their final 2 days. Then you were a nervous wreck that couldn't even speak. And the day after, you were smiling like a brat playing with a new toy. It was too surreal. Naruto stared out into the open blue sky, fantasizing about escaping in it once again. I killed Mizuki. Heard you the first time and the dozen times after that. Sasuke rolled his eyes. How long do you expect to ride off it? Zabuza is a far greater opponent and he likely won't be the last. Naruto shook his head. That's not it or that's the point. He grumbled. He was nothing, but it felt like such a relief. Really? Like things were finally changing for better in my life. Picking himself up, Naruto took a deep breath. But now it's gone. Sasuke followed his lead. What about the other Miss Ninja? Like throwing away the trash. He was more Kakashi's, not mine. Just not the same. He prepared to take off but saw the other boy still axe. What? Why are you trying to be different? You don't owe anyone else anything. No shit. He laughed for a few seconds before lifting a finger to scratch his whiskered cheek. I don't know really. Kakashi pointed out some things that made me feel weak, so I wanted to prove him wrong. The smallest of hums murmured in the Uchiha's throat. He turned to the tree and prepped his kunai. You haven't called me a gloomy cocksucker since the bell test. By mistake. Naruto gave an earnest smile. Thanks Sasuke. His smile faded at the other young man's disturbed expression. Is it really that bad? Oh, come on. That is what putting others above you gets you. Just like it was in orientation and graduation day. Happy, angry, or frightened, there is always some part of your existence that is somehow wrong. Growling, he took out his own kunai and dashed up a tree, driving Sasuke to do the same. They rose and fell together over and over again, only taking breaks to attend to their natural needs. Sun gave way to moon and vice versa. For entire days they competed with each other over what was a basic shinobi exercise and ability. Little but enough changed between them since their academy days. It was the 6th day of their training. Naruto went to sleep at the end of the 5th outside in the forest, determined to outpace Sasuke with his superior stamina. He was certain Kakashi and Tsunami would scold him in the morning, but he wasn't in the mood to care. Kakashi and Sasuke's words were ringing in his mind. "You'll catch a cold sleeping in a place like this," a gentle voice said. Naruto's eyes fluttered open, catching sight of a beautiful face with long black hair. "Let me worry about that." He lifted his upper body off the grass. "What are you doing here?" The stranger showed him the contents of a basket near them. "I'm collecting herbs." Placing it back down, a smile formed on their lips. "What are you doing here?" "Training." He stretched his limbs and his sides. "I noticed your forehead protector, are you a ninja?" Their lips pursed at a nod. "Why are you training?" "So I can become stronger, duh. But you already look strong enough." Naruto shook his head. "I want to be the best of the best." "Why is that?" "So everyone who ever shunned me regrets it." He grinned. "They're going to feel miserable when they see me and hear my name, which they will for the rest of their lives." They leaned in. "Is that for yourself or someone else?" They laughed at his confused expression. "Who else could it be for? Do you have someone who is precious to you?" They glanced down. When a person has something important to protect, that's when they can truly become strong. Chuckling, Naruto fell back down. "If you need other people to be strong, there was no strength in you to begin with." His smile shifted into a frown. "I'm not sure if they're precious to me." He hummed as the stranger looked over him with a tilted head. "It's like they do like seeing me happy, and I am happy around them sometimes, but I am grateful." It's just taking a deep breath, he balled a hand into a fist and held it over his chest. "They want me to be happy, so I can stop being so miserable around them. I can only get people to care about me through making it hard to be around me." His lips quivered. "My problems are only a concern when it affects other people. My happiness is only important when it makes things easier for others or makes them happy." He gave a shaky sigh. "Almost everyone I know makes me feel alone. But aren't you of use, needed? I guess that's not enough for me." With a hum, they picked up the basket and stood up. "I'm not sure you will become strong, but let's meet again to see." "See you, lady." He gave a wave from the ground as they left. "I'm a dude." Naruto's upper body shot up for him to stare at the feminine figure of the young man growing distant, Sasuke some ways to his left. "Does this make me gay?" "What?" the Uchiha asked, eyes also on the retreating stranger. His gaze steeled on his rival. "You heard nothing." Knowing it was probably something stupid, the boy in blue did not respond. He just turned around and left to get breakfast, what he was trying to inform the boy in orange of. The look he was given for the rest of the day was as childish as it was accusing. On the 7th day, Sakura was up and moving again without issue. She was far back on training, so she went with the boys out into the woods. Naruto was proudly and arrogantly leaning on a high tree's trunk from its highest branch. To their envy, she ran all the way to the top on her first try. "You've gotta be fucking kidding me," Naruto said, looking up at the smug pink-haired girl. Kakashi's nose was in his favorite book. "I told you she had excellent chakra control. Just needs to work on building up her reserves." "Ninjutsu specialist," Sasuke said from his own tree branch. "Without a doubt. And I guess I'm ninjutsu so Naruto's taijutsu." Naruto shot him a look. "You can sound offended when you can actually stop me from grappling you." He smirked at his scoff. "But well-rounded team." Kakashi turned and began walking away. "I'm going to the bridge with Tazuna soon. Have fun." The three kept at it for a time. Sakura realized an hour and she was already a master at the exercise, so all she really needed was using her chakra. She retired far earlier than the other two did, fearing exhaustion again. Naruto and Sasuke used their new maximum height to scout for the absolute highest tree in their vicinity and made that their final competition. It ended with a draw. "If we tell them," Naruto said, exhausted arm draped over Sasuke's shoulder, "Sakura's going to walk out there, do it, and then come back to act like it wasn't anything and that you should make her your girlfriend or something." "I know." Sasuke groaned. "Why do you lead her on?" Naruto asked. "I mean, what's the harm in telling her to fuck off?" He gave him a look. "Imagine her crying like she did at the practice field except all the time. Well, shit. Maybe she'll grow some tits." "I'm not interested in that." Naruto returned the look he gave. "Okay, whatever you prefer, man." He returned his arm to his side. Sasuke scowled. "What happened to being better? I thought you preferred me being a dot." Naruto smirked at the twitch due to his word choice. Sasuke rolled his eyes as he stepped towards the door to the Tazuna entrance. "Only because that you isn't faking." He opened it and stepped in. "We're back. I think we've learned all we can about running up trees." Naruto followed. Kakashi nodded while they took their places at the dinner table. "Alright. Tomorrow, all three of you will help protect the bridge. It's almost complete. And not a single attack." "Couldn't have asked for better luck," Tazuna said. Inari slammed his hands on the table. "Why do you guys bother to try so hard?" "No ma." "Oh, just shut the fuck up." Naruto yawned. "Aren't you tired of feeling sad for yourself?" "The free." Kakashi grabbed Naruto's hand before it could grab the back of the boy's head. "Easy." If everything is so hard for you, why don't you just kill yourself and spare us your whining? Naruto. Sakura yelled, something Sasuke rolled his eyes at. He shook his head and separated from his sensei. I'm going to bed. He left without further words or looking at anyone, leaving everyone looking varying degrees of surprise. Some time later, Kakashi approached Inari, who was sitting on the pier. Can I join you? He took the boy's silence as a yes. Naruto completely meant to hurt you. That moment the word almost left your mouth was all he needed to decide you were less than dirt. He hummed. Tazuna told us about your dad. Naruto also grew up without a father. Actually, he never knew his parents and he's never had a single friend. His eye turned to Inari's as he looked to him. You can count the people who think well of him in the village on one hand, company included. They've looked down on him since he was a child for circumstances beyond his control, so he acts out. Insults, violence, and just saying whatever is on his mind without a care in the world. He's already scum in their eyes, so what's the point? Doesn't that just make it worse? The boy asked. Yes, but he doesn't even consider trying to make it better. Who actually desires the love and praises of people that hate them? The child that is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Kakashi frowned beneath his mask. He likely despises you because you remind him of what he used to be. A crying child who feels helpless. Naruto might understand your feelings better than anyone, and he hates that. He knows what strength is. And it's become everything to him. He turned and walked away. Those words would trouble Inari through the night and stay with him for the rest of his life. He wasn't sure what strength was still, but he knew it was something he didn't have. It was something he really wanted though. The next morning, Team 7 left without Naruto, who was sleeping in after an entire night of training. It was something that set him off when he woke up. He scarfed down breakfast so fast both the leftover citizens were concerned he'd choke on it. When they tried to tell him, he said something as incorrigible as it was incomprehensible. I'll show those bastards. He glanced back at the civilians and made 2 clones. Make sure no one tries any funny business. They nodded in tandem, but one looked back at the mother. Tsunami, you are a lovely woman, and I want to give you a child that isn't a worthless crybaby before you dry out. The real one punched it out of existence, while the other made a clone of itself to replace it. Learn from his mistake. He left before either of them could say anything. What? Inari asked to no one in particular. Stupid bastard went rogue, the head clone said. Its own clone raised an eyebrow. Don't we go away with one good hit, boss? Shouldn't we have our ninja tools out? It checked its pouches. Oh right, the main man used them all against no brows. They created more shadow clones, which then transformed themselves into ninja tools. This is easily the most genius thing any clone has ever thought of. Main man better remember us. The subordinate clone nodded. Damn right, boss. Tsunami massaged her child's shoulders as she stared at the odd sight. Naruto might have some deep-seated issues. We heard that. They said in unison. I still value and appreciate you, the subordinate said. Its eyes widened before its progenitor punched him out of existence, leaving behind the transformed tools. You knew better, mini-me. He collected them into his pouches. In the end, I'm the only one the main man can trust. Yeah, I figured that out yesterday. Mother and son returned to their daily lives. The clone of Naruto stood guard faithfully, albeit bored out of its mind. Then 2 thugs with swords approached from a distance. Out of our way, ninja brat. The one with an eye patch yelled. I am half of Naruto Uzumaki. He threw 4 shuriken at them, which then proceeded to transform into kicking Naruto's. Those are parts of me, I guess. Which makes me not half. One each locked down one of the thug's limbs and broke them before doing the same to the other, leaving them neutralized yet screaming. Task done, they went back to the head clone, transformed into ninja tools again, and returned to his pouches. Tsunami and Inari did their best to ignore the screaming until the clone got tired of it and just killed them. He had some of the ninja tool clones drag their bodies off to not alarm the civilians. Part of him wondered if he should have interrogated them, but he was certain there was little to be gained. The rest of its existence was uneventful. The situation at the bridge escalated beyond Team 7's control. Sasuke was flanked by an array of ice mirrors, and Kakashi was staring down a fully recovered Zabuza. Sakura stood by Tazuna because someone had to, and her trick wouldn't work twice. She almost got it off before the fake hunter Nin cornered off Sasuke. This is why you should have woken me the fuck up. Naruto yelled, running towards their position. Team, my ass. Zabuza threw some shuriken at him, but they were stopped by needles. Haku. The fake appeared outside the array. Let me fight them my own way. Soft as always, Zabuza said with a shake of his head. Naruto entered the ice confinement zone, making the kneeling and scratched up Sasuke jolt. Alright, let's kill this anaphobitch. You fucking moron. Sasuke yelled. Use your head. Floating ice mirrors surrounding something. He held a hand out at the space between mirrors. Enemy shinobi out in front. Teammate in. Floating ice mirrors enemy jutsu. Interior affected area. Maybe next time wake me up so I don't arrive at a battle in progress not knowing jack shit, you gloomy cocksucker. Zabuza gave Kakashi a look. This is your squad. You caught us at a bad time. Haku crept back into a mirror and teleported behind the one the two inside the array were looking at. Over here. Sasuke brought his fingers together for the tiger seal and blew a large ball of fire out of his mouth at the mirrors, but they didn't so much as melt a single drop. Damn. Haku responded by throwing needles into both of them. Your level of fire jutsu is inadequate. Naruto created enough clones to match the number of mirrors. At least it looked cool. They jumped to attack but were all eliminated by more needles. Ah, fuck. Becoming a true shinobi is difficult for me, Haku began. If possible, I don't want to kill you nor want you to kill me. But if I have to, I can destroy my soft heart and become a true shinobi. Please don't hate me. I want to protect someone precious to me. To fight for them. I want to make that person's dreams come true because that is my dream. The masked figure appeared in the mirror in front of them. For that I can become a shinobi, I can kill you. Damn, you're dramatic. Can you just try to kill us, please? Naruto groaned as Sasuke shot him a look. Can't believe I just said that, but dying would be better than having to hear you talk about how much killing us is going to suck for you. As you wish. Haku zipped from mirror to mirror, pelting them with needles. Even when they managed to avoid some, they were still hit. You move well, but this is the end. Sasuke looked up at his latest mirror position. Narrowing his eyes, he took a deep breath. Then he grabbed Naruto and jumped when he saw the fake Hunter Nin's hands peek out of the mirror, avoiding Haku's strike entirely, but sending them both rolling on the ground. He picked himself up and smirked. It was perfect. I see you two possess a powerful Kekkei Genkai. His focus switched to the recovering Naruto. Whether the other reacted or not, he'd be down an enemy. I will give you what you wanted. He inched out the mirror. Sasuke, reacting on instinct, moved. Naruto looked up and widened his eyes at the Uchiha defending him with his body. He glanced back. What's with that worried face? Why? I hated you. Sasuke laughed, not really hearing him. Why save me? I don't know. If he could shrug, he would have. My body just moved on its own dumbus. Naruto scrambled over and caught him before he could hit the ground. Itachi is still out there. He looked into Naruto's eyes as tears welled up in one of his. Your dream, you're angry because you're crying on the inside, aren't you, Naruto? He closed his eyes, shedding a single tear, and went limp. Haku inclined his head in recognition. He found a strength he lacked in you. Without hesitation, he died to protect someone precious to him. He is a shinobi that deserves respect. He looked to Naruto as he retreated into his nearest mirror. Is this the first time you've seen a friend die in battle? This is the path of all ninja. Naruto looked up to a cage rather than an ice mirror, face frozen in disbelief with tears running down his whiskered cheeks. Red eyes squinted with glee at the sight of him. It was for the best. He was an Uchiha. The beast snickered. I hated him. But who do you hate most right now? That masked piece of shit. Its grinning teeth gleamed in the darkness. What do you want to do to him? Break his bones, strip his skin off, gouge out his eyes, tear off his limbs, and rip out his heart. But you're stuck. It laughed. You're a weak, defenseless boy crying over a dead one. You don't have what it takes to get out of this. You do. And why would I do that? We'll both die if I do, right? I'll eventually reform. Not a pleasant experience, but I can bear it, it lied. Please. Naruto collapsed in the water. I want to kill him so much. I hate this. All of this. Release the seal, and I'll make it all go away. You'll kill Kakashi and Sakura. It nearly growled. Then I suppose you'll just have to die here. He put his forehead to the ground. Please. I'm begging you. That's more like it. You're starting to understand the nature of our relationship. Chakra as red as its fur rushed over the boy. Years of machinations had been in place for this moment. I am your true power. I have always been your strength. It laughed while he began to spasm. Those who care for you only do so because I exist. Show gratitude for the graciousness of my existence tied to the meaninglessness that is yours. Naruto let Sasuke down and shambled onto his feet, red chakra swirling around him. You worthless piece of shit. His nails grew, whiskers deepened, and eyes turned red. It bubbled around him, forming a human fox-shaped cloak with a single tail. His wounds healed, the needles inside him were forced out, and his pupils narrowed to slits. I'm going to kill you. The two Jonin and everyone else outside of the array felt the new chakra. It was something they were both witness to at some point or another. Only one of them actually faced it down for himself though. You brought your fucking Jinchuriki here, Zabuza yelled. This was supposed to be a C-rank mission. Kakashi dabbed his thumb in the blood of the shallow wound on his chest, took out some scrolls, and ran it over the inscriptions. Also, you're about to die. Haku threw needles, but their force was cancelled out by the cloak of red chakra. Oh. Naruto threw out his hand, and the cloak of chakra expanded to form a massive hand. With a roar, he swept it through the mirrors, eliminating any form of retreat or method to evade him. He clutched hard on the last one to grip Haku's entire body. This is the end. He mocked and drew the fake hunter into him, punching him in the face and shattering his mask. You. His anger faded somewhat, so his cloak did too. Of course. He scoffed as the feminine-looking man dropped to his knees. The first person I spill my guts to. Why did you stop? Haku asked. I killed your friend but you can't kill me. Naruto punched him in the gut. Don't test me, bitch. He gripped him by the shoulders of his Haori and stood him up, red eyes glaring at dead ones. Why didn't you kill me back at the forest? I am a weak shinobi. Haku smiled. I tried to be strong for Zabuza, but you were right. Those who seek others for strength lack strength to begin with. Zabuza has no need of me, so I have no reason for living. What the fuck are you talking about? Why is that asshole so important to you? Then Haku told him about his parents. For the crime of being born with a Kekai Genkai, his father killed his mother and he killed him in turn. Short-sightedness ostracized him from everyone else. It was the most painful feeling. In all the world, there was no need for me. I was unnecessary. His eyes met Naruto's with understanding. I do not understand what that boy was to you, but I can tell, even for a brief moment, he took away the pain you feel, the pain you wish others to suffer for bestowing it on you. Tears streamed down his cheeks. When Zabuza took away mine, I was so happy. That's why I want you to kill me, please. You're fucking crazy, you know that. Naruto scowled. I thought you of all people would understand. I am too weak to live without purpose. Taking a deep breath, Naruto shook his head, feral features fading. People like you really piss me off, you know. He let one hand go to reach into his pouch for Haku to break out of his hold. Hey. He made the tiger seal again. Sorry. Naruto turned his head to the action and saw Kakashi with an electrical hand through Haku's chest, Zabuza behind him. I wanted to do that. Kakashi jumped back and set down Haku's corpse before Zabuza could chop through them both. Naruto, stay where you are. He pulled his hand free. This is my fight. And that was my kill, he whispered to himself. Our kill. Really mine. You did beg me for it. He looked down, dejection on his face. It was a complete and utter failure. All his beliefs besmirched by his own hand. The event even gave his horrible roommate more than enough material with torment him than it already had. What little pride he mustered was destroyed too. Naruto. Sakura called out, running towards him. Where's Sasuke? It took everything for him not to cry, focusing his gaze up at the clouded sky to get his mind off it. He barely registered Sakura running past him with Tazuna. All he wanted was to not be there. Kakashi was some ways behind a crippled Zabuza when a tapping cane drew their attention. Getting your ass kicked. How disappointing, a stubby man with a mob of thugs behind him said. Beto. Zabuza yelled. You slimy bastard. Oh please. I knew you were going to turn on me eventually. You missing nin types aren't the kind to play second fiddle to normal folk. Gato began approaching them. Zabuza groaned. Looks like our fight is over, Kakashi. I have no reason to kill Tazuna, so I've got no reason to fight you. A shame. He put away his Sharingan. I was winning. Don't push it. Beto stopped at Haku's body. I owe this one for breaking my arm. He kicked its limp head. You stupid fuck. Naruto stomped forward, red chakra bubbling around him again. He's already dead. Naruto, Kakashi called out. He ignored his sensei, stopped, and turned to Zabuza. And you. No eyebrows, 2-bit Jonin asshole. He pointed to the corpse. You were everything to him. He would have done anything you wanted. And in the end, he sacrificed his entire life for you. You're just going to let him be treated like some used-up trash. Everyone uses each other in the world of shinobi. We're tools. I just wanted his blood, not him. Naruto's cloak manifested fully. He loved you so much he wanted me to kill him for failing you. And you feel nothing. He walked towards him and grabbed his wounded arm, singing it. Look, 8 tears were emerging from the man's eyes when he turned him. Your words cut deep. Deeper than any blade. Zabuza's eyes drifted to Haku's body. It hurt him to hurt you. When you beat him, he was relieved. He laughed as the boy's cloak began to disperse. I'm glad I met you idiots. He tore the bandages from his face off with his teeth alone. Got one last kunai? Naruto tore one from his arms, making him grunt, and held it up by its middle. I used them all up on you. He smiled. You shark-teeth dumbus. Zabuza snatched the hilt with said teeth, sprinted towards the mob, and began taking it apart. He got a few cuts and a few stabs, but those didn't matter to him at that point. Gato was his real target and he was already too close by the time he was taking too much damage. The little man was thrown off the bridge by the force he could muster in just his mouth. His leftover mob enveloped and stabbed him. Don't look away, Kakashi said. I'm not. Naruto's cloak bubbled back up. Someone's gotta answer for all of this and I never got to rip someone apart. Kakashi held an arm out in front of the boy. I can take care of it. I want to. The fourth did this to me to make me a weapon, didn't he? Naruto. He glared at the silver-haired man. "Stop pretending like you actually care about me. You knew the entire time what I am. It's written on your face. All of you did, and you didn't bother telling me so you could use me like Zabuza used Haku." Tears sprang from his red eyes. But Zabuza was at least honest. And he loved Haku. He didn't hate him. He pushed him out of the way with a hand of pure chakra. "I don't need a fake sensei." Obstacle removed, he charged at the confused mob. Kakashi could do nothing but watch his student tear them limb from limb, sometimes literally. Their weapons bounced off the cloak when they could actually touch him. His arms, tail manifestation, legs and teeth broke them apart. Blood pooled beneath his feet and strained his clothes, most sizzling at contact with his chakra cloak. The screams of rage he heard would haunt him for the rest of his life. "I failed you, sensei." Naruto squatted and seethed in the large puddle of blood when he was done. He eyed Kakashi warily when he approached, but he backed away at an extended hand. It took several seconds of him staring at it to inch into its range. Kakashi patted him on the head, even as the cloak burned his skin. "You've done a good job, Naruto. I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like I hated you." He gave an eye smile as the Nine Tails chakra dissipated. "It must have been painful, huh?" The boy jumping up to hug him nearly made him laugh. "It's okay." He picked him up for the first time in about a decade, holding him as close as Minato held him when he reported about Rin. "You did what you had to." He began walking back to the others that retreated with Sasuke. "Holy shit." Sakura gaped at the blood-covered Naruto in Kakashi's arms. "What happened?" "I heard screaming but." Sasuke, alive and unwell, was supported by Tazuna. "Naruto." The boy dropped out of their leader's grasp and embraced him, to his discomfort. "Hey, I'm still winded. What's the big idea?" He grimaced in recollection of his apparent last words. "Don't get soft on me or cover me with that blood." He looked at Kakashi. "What happened?" Gato showed up with a mob, turned on Zabuza, Zabuza killed Gato, and the two of us took care of everyone else. He rubbed the back of his head. "Naruto was going all out because he thought you died." Sakura cooed. "That's really sweet." She glanced at the blood all over his clothes. "You definitely need a fashion makeover now and a shower. I'm going to bury Zabuza and his friend." He didn't flinch at the looks he got. "You never know when you'll die behind enemy lines or with people who don't know you. Best you can do is give them a shallow grave, hoping someone will do the same for you." He looked at Tazuna. "There likely won't be any more attacks now that Gato's dead." The old man nodded. "I'll take the brats back to my place then. We could all use some rest." He started walking. "Come back soon." The five went their separate ways. From then on, that incident would be known as the Wave Massacre. Accounts vary of what happened, but there is a demon, a sacrifice, a senseless death, and the namesake massacre in every variation. Only Team 7 and Tazuna could give an accurate account, given that everyone else was dead. The day after was oddly sullen. By all accounts, they succeeded in their mission, and the land of the waves was saved. Except one man's death didn't immediately root their influence. It'd take time for word of Gato's death to spread and the blockade to go away pursuing other interests. The conditions that led to Gato being capable of his actions were still in place. Completing the bridge and eliminating Gato was really the first step. Sasuke stretched in the main hall of Tazuna's residence, covered in patches over what were superficial wounds. Those two were just the beginning. He looked at Naruto walk out of the guest room still in his pajamas and without his forehead protector, not that he had anything else to wear. "Let's train." He stepped forward with a big smile on his face. "We need to get stronger, Sasuke." Sasuke closed his eyes and leaned against the nearby wall. "Come here." He opened them to see Naruto's giddy face within range and jabbed his pointer and ring finger tips into the center of his forehead. Naruto stepped back and made a confused face. "What was that for?" "Wear your forehead protector." Sasuke smirked. "Then we'll train." He watched him dart back into the room and let himself laugh. A part of him wondered if the warm feeling in his chest was what Itachi felt before he did the unthinkable. "There you are," Naruto said, taking the symbol of his leaf shinobi status into his hand. "What a loyal little guard dog prizing his collar so much." For a second, Naruto's eyes turned red in anger, but he dismissed it with a shake of his head. The headband was a symbol of his accomplishment. His status as a Jinchuriki was not the reason why he had it. Nothing could take that away from him. "What's taking you so long?" Sasuke asked. Naruto ran out and tied it over his forehead. "Nothing. Let's go." The two went out and competed against each other, as they always did. For Team 7, the next 13 days flew by without issue, though it was the longest days in Tazuna's long life. Kakashi kept refining Sakura's fundamentals and taught her how to use optic delusory, a basic yet useful Jinjutsu, while the boys did their usual thing. Inari began accompanying his grandfather sometime after the massacre, feeling as though he at least had to do something. They visited Zabuza and Haku's graves before departing the land of the waves, using the brand new Great Kaiza Bridge. It would stand as a testament toward sacrifice and strength. The gates of the Hidden Leaf Village was in eyesight of Team 7. It took them as much time to get back as it took them to get to the land of the waves. No bandits attacked nor Chunin laying in wait, pretending to be puddles of water. Well, it was nice to have some peace, things were boring without some action. Naruto, clad in dirty pajamas, cringed. I was getting used to being away. And used to those dirty clothes, Sakura said, giving his muddied outfit a look. Not my fault the wave is a damp dump with no clothing shops and one hot woman in it. Please, stay in your age range, Kakashi said. The bigger an age gap, the more disastrous a relationship is. He, if there were an afterlife, would also have to explain to his mentor why he let his son be deflowered by a woman several leagues above his senior. It was already awkward when he tried to justify his own. Apparently being in a black ops organization with tasks ranging from assassination to terrorism doesn't mean you're ready to have sex. Granted, he was trying to drown out the creeping despair and guilt he felt. I just want to grab some titties. Sasuke shook his head while Sakura choked down a laugh. And here I thought you wanted to be strong. And a man want both. He groaned. But to grab titties, I must be strong. To be strong, I must not want to grab titties. His tone grew dour. This world is cruel. Sakura tilted her head. Is love not important to you? What do you think I mean by grabbing titties? Naruto inched away from her slap, something he predicted with ease. You're almost there. Not enough to take down those water losers, but you can at least put up a fight. But the Jinjutsu and kunai, you'll do fine. Naruto and I will draw focus while you flank, Sasuke said, doing his best to avoid eye contact with her blushing face. Sakura sighed. I'll need to learn more Jinjutsu then. They were more than in range of the ninja posted as guards. Holy shit. One yelled. Kakashi, it's been nearly an entire month. The one-eyed ninja raised a hand in greeting. Things got crazy. The rest offered their standard greetings. Of course, most gave Naruto the side eye for more than just his decrepit appearance. Sasuke, Sakura and Kakashi noticed the stares on their way to the mission desk. Time spent away made them realize just how much the Leaf villagers were wary of the boy, usually in orange. He'd grown on them and lightened up after the massacre. In place of his usual anger was a cheeky cheeriness less abrasive than his usual self, but still Naruto enough to not disturb them. His reaction to Sasuke's apparent death made them recontextualize many things. And then we came home, Kakashi said, finishing his verbal report to the third Hokage and everyone present. Sarutobi's pipe nearly fell out of his mouth. A mission to safeguard a bridge builder led to the death of one of the world's richest men, Zabuza Mamachi, and the building of a structure that will have a long-term effect on the overall economy in the Land of Fire, needless to say on top of what impact Gato's death will have. It kind of sucked, but it did give us experience, Naruto said. You got another one that'll take us out of here for a month. I don't think you realize the magnitude of what you've done. What was originally a C-rank mission turned into an A rank concerning the nation's personal interests. We have to renegotiate with Tazuna. Lord Third, you aren't likely to get anything. Sakura tried her best to avoid eye contact with the most powerful Kage alive. The Land of the Waves is too poor at the moment. I'd say maybe in a couple of years. Sasuke nodded. It didn't take Gato long to suck up the wealth from it, but it's easier to raise than it is to build. They're okay people, save one, I guess. Naruto sighed. Really wished I tried something on Tsunami, even if she would have said no. Kakashi chuckled. The decision ultimately lies with you, Lord Hokage. I made the choice to see the mission through, and I take full responsibility. You're reckless, Kakashi, but I can't punish you for something that benefited us. The old man smirked. Gato's company fractured after his death, which means competitive prices and an end to a potential monopoly on shipping. There will be turmoil for a time, yes. With machinations, every village will make it so the outcome benefits us most of all. All's well that ends well. Just make sure the children don't fight over the money. Said children made curious faces as they walked to the pay stand. The worker manning it, armed with the info of the mission rank increase and complications, did some calculations. He went into another room and came back with a suitcase. Plopping it on the stand, he opened it for them to see. Fuck me, Naruto said. Are we rich? Sakura nearly drooled. That's around $500,000 right? We don't have to worry about ninja tools or scrolls anytime soon, Sasuke chimed in, already loaded from inheriting an entire clan's worth of wealth. He glanced at Naruto. You can take my cut if you need it. He scoffed. I'm not taking your money. You died for a minute, man. It's weird how cute you two caring about each other is. Sakura took a stack and flipped a finger through the notes while they looked away from the other. She glanced at Naruto's ruined pajamas. We are definitely going shopping for new clothes first. I'm not your dress-up doll. Her eyes brimmed with the essence of smug. If you were, you wouldn't have worn that disastrous white-collar orange jacket. It wasn't that bad. Naruto, Sasuke said, you look like you gave up partway through your color scheme and went for the first thing you thought would look cool. But it actually looks stupid if you looked at it for more than a couple of seconds. Wow, you actually said something insulting I have no comeback for. While Sakura applauded Sasuke's accomplishment, Kakashi and Sarutobi looked onward with pride. They've grown closer and Naruto has eased up quite a bit. I knew you were the right man for the job. There's something I need to tell you away from prying eyes and keen ears. His one eye told the old cage what he meant. Meet me at my office. He stood up and one of the other officials took his place. Alright. Kakashi called out as he walked to his squad. You're dismissed. Feel free to dress up Naruto or whatever it is you kids want to do. He watched him escort the disheveled young man out before heading for the Hokage residence himself. Sarutobi was alone with his paperwork when Kakashi walked in. What happened? Did you hear about the Wave Massacre? I know you and your team were involved for sure now. Save what you told me, I've heard nothing but rumors and conjecture. Kakashi looked down. Naruto's seal loosened and he manifested a cloak of the Nine Tails chakra. What? He was under the impression Sasuke had died. They've been growing closer ever since they made my team. Whatever he felt was powerful enough to summon the power of the Nine Tails. Kakashi pursed his lips beneath his mask. It was just one tail, but that means it'll go to 9 if he draws enough from it. I take it Naruto alone fought Gato's mob then? Kakashi nodded. He grabbed me with a hand of pure chakra and moved me out of the way to slaughter them all himself. This is Sarutobi folded his hands together. Has he manifested at any other time since? Not that I know of. It seemed to respond to his anger, dissipating and bubbling when he was eased and provoked. And I haven't seen him angry since. I'm not sure testing that theory is the wisest thing right now. Sarutobi shook his head. He seemed like he was doing so well. He is. I just don't think we've realized how much he's hurting. Kakashi laughed. You should have seen him when I praised him. He actually blushed. He looked at his burned-scarred hand. Deep down, he's longing for acknowledgement or some kind of acceptance, but I doubt he'd see a point in that. Hopefully, Naruto's bonds with his comrades will eventually make him realize it. You know what to do if the Nine Tails power manifests itself again. I'll send for a sealing jutsu master to come inspect the seal. Kakashi closed his eye, knowing full well who he was speaking of. That may take a great amount of time. Oh, I know. Sarutobi sighed. But he always comes when he's needed. You're dismissed. Kakashi nodded and left the office. That man would have more than a few things to say about Naruto's current state. He was reasonable and unreasonable depending on the situation and subject involved. Unfortunately, this was also a sensitive situation and subject. Only time would tell what would happen though. For nearly a full hour, Sakura and Sasuke, but mostly Sakura, was dragging Naruto around the village in search of a male specialty clothes shop they found passable. The shop he got his original outfit from was dismissed by default. Anything Naruto find passable was unacceptable really. All three breathed a sigh of relief when they found one that sold ninja-type clothing of high quality. Naruto stepped out of the booth wearing blue sandals, orange shorts with blue trimming, a blue undershirt, and an orange vest. Am I presentable now? He posed by sticking out his two middle fingers. Sakura stroked her chin. Maybe the orange pants instead. This is fine, Sasuke said, almost as eager as Naruto to get it over with. Mobile and flexible. Your jacket and pants were slowing you down. Look in the mirror. Sakura gestured towards it. See how much the white collar took away. Rolling his eyes, Naruto turned to the sheet of glass and raised an eyebrow at his reflection. Damn, Tsunami wouldn't have turned me down if I asked her out looking like this. You almost slammed her only child's head against their dinner table, Sakura deadpanned. You also told him he should kill himself if he didn't stop whining. He was being a little shit and I'm pretty sure that made him start going out of his house. You should look at Konohamaru. I almost did the same thing and he's now on the road to success. Naruto turned to the confused faces of his teammates. Old man Hokage's grandson. He blinked when their looks pained. What, does he know? Sakura asked. He was there. Oh my fuck. Sasuke tilted his head, eyes questioning him before his lips did. What is your relationship with the Hokage where you can almost physically harm his grandson, act out in his presence, commit high treason, and still be on good terms with him? Oh yes, tell them and see if you're still tolerable. Naruto nearly drove his fist into the mirror. Well, you'll have to ask him. He shrugged. It wasn't an outright lie. He was uncertain the old man really cared for him since he first spoke with the fox. And I didn't commit high treason, I was tricked into committing high treason on someone else's behalf. Did you really believe anyone could pass by stealing from the Hokage himself, especially his scroll of forbidden jutsu? Sakura eyed him with rightful suspicion. I really wanted to get out of that fucking academy, he half lied. Also, wouldn't you make a civilian a shinobi if they managed to pull something like that off? I mean, like it or not, I did, and I did make Genin for it. Sasuke hummed. Sets a bad precedent. Old man Hokage has been a shinobi for a long time. Naruto led them to the counter and held out a hand at Sakura, who hid the suitcase. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. When he felt a bundle in his hand, he took out the cost of his outfit, handed it over, and returned the rest to Sakura. "Now where should we go to eat?" she said. "Ichiraku?" Naruto raised a fist of victory in the air. Every time he said it, they ate there. "That's what we've gotten literally every time." She turned to her other teammate. "What do you want to get, Sasuke?" He shrugged. "Whatever. Then how about we go?" Sakura drifted off, getting the "please stop you never make up your mind" look from them. I don't really know." Naruto brought his fist down with a grunt and started leading them out the door. Ichiraku Ramen. Ichiraku Ramen. He knew the way by heart at that point, regardless of where he was in the village. Ninjas." The counterman glanced at the changing room to them as they walked out. "Did you forget your clothes?" "Keep them," Naruto said. Sakura smiled in apology and embarrassment. "Sorry. I don't even know why people wear pajamas anyway," Sasuke chimed in. They shut the door behind them and left the man with the delinquent ninjas castaways. His boss would save them in a container in hopes of throwing at them if they ever returned. Unfortunately for him, he never would. Naruto Uzumaki preferred cheap places, Sakura was a woman, and Sasuke had an entire clan's worth of clothing left for himself. It became an oddity yet a tradition to display as an example of their superior craftsmanship. It was sundown and Sarutobi was still in his office. The paperwork of Hokage was never done, consequences of a centralized government. One could entrust other, weaker men to the paperwork or even clones, but that was likely to produce less results. Tobirama outright told him Hashirama's clones more often than not deliberately made mistakes to end their torturous, meaningless existences. The younger brother had to set down the older one for a stern talking to about responsibility. The door to the office opened and a familiar, equally old face emerged from the darkness. An old scar on his chin still lingered, refusing to fade away. His one eye was tired yet stern. Part of his face was bandaged away as consequence of an old war wound. "Danzo," the third greeted. "I hope the next words that come out of your mouth aren't what I think they are. I'm afraid they may be, Hiruzen. Other than myself, you are the one that knows me best." He didn't waste time with the cage's questioning glare. "The nine-tailed seal is weakening, and his vessel is a fragile boy. I told you once. I will not tell you again. Someone must watch him." Sarutobi puffed on his pipe. "Kakashi Haddock is already safeguarding him. I believe you have trust in his abilities. I'm afraid Kakashi is compromised in this matter. If he cannot be replaced, he must be kept in line by someone else. Someone that both of you will accept." Danzo closed his eye at his old friend's questioning ones. "The man with wood jutsu. I'm surprised by your recommendation. There is no one else with the ability to suppress a tailed beast. He may be Kakashi's ally, but he is not biased towards the child." Danzo opened his eye. "It's in the village's best interests he be involved as a failsafe. That may very well be a wise choice regarding this matter." Sarutobi sighed. "If someone Naruto cherishes dies, it may damage the seal even further. All of Team 7 could have been wiped out with the exception of him. Having them shadowed by a powerful operative would prevent the chances of that ever happening again." Nodding, Danzo turned to the door. "I'm glad you see things my way for once. Before you go," Sarutobi said, "I need you to promise me something. You know I can't keep any, Hiruzen. If anything happens to me, I want you to leave the boy be." Danzo looked at his old friend from the corner of his eye. "He holds the power of the nine tails. And it won't take much for him to turn against this village if he feels threatened. He is already despised and an outcast. Bringing him into your fold will only push him over the edge." Sarutobi's gaze softened. "I trust your intentions, as despicable as your actions may be. Trust mine. Why this boy? You've already seen hundreds die, used, and discarded. What is special about him?" He puffed his pipe and looked down at his desk. He was never given a choice to be a weapon. Just so happens he made the decision to become a shinobi on his own. If I can give him something, I will give him the choice to decide on which type he is. I'll think about it, Hiruzen." He opened the door. "The village's best interests come first, always." He stepped out and vanished in the dark before shutting the door. Sarutobi shook his head. The old, young and brash Danzo would have never imagined himself to be what he was now. It was ironic how Sarutobi would have loved him to stay that way when they despised each other mutually. Both lived through Ninja World War to Ninja World War up until that point. Sarutobi would have stayed in retirement had it not been for the fourth Hokage's death at the hands of the nine-tailed fox. While he wished Danzo would stop his meddling when died or stopped his administration, he knew he wouldn't. He could only hope his old rival died before he did or returned to some semblance of decency, both far-off possibilities considering their personalities. Several days passed since their return. Team 7 spent most of its time either training or doing missions, just as they had before. Naruto, feeling especially antsy for various reasons, insisted they spend a few nights or even entire days in the village woods. Sakura didn't want to worry her parents, and Kakashi had smut he couldn't enjoy to its fullest if he had to oversee them, so Sasuke alone went to keep his fellow orphan company. Naruto was watching the stars in his sleeping bag as Sasuke was already fast asleep in his own. I can barely land a single hit now. He frowned, recalling their spars since the massacre. While he could still get him into holds, he learned to break out by attacking and disengaging before his body went taut. Only when he blindsided him or attacked when he blinked could he get the upper hand. Fucking Sharingan. You should kill him while he's asleep. After all, you're too weak to beat him outright ever again. He rose from his bag and walked to the direction of a nearby river. Shut up. Another thing you need me to do that you can't do on your own. I'm going to rip you out of me and kill you myself, you piece of shit. Naruto reached the river bank, sat down, and leaned over the flowing water to see himself with red eyes. What? The beast laughed. I've always been a part of you. Rage, anger, and hatred this body. We share many things. His whisker marks deepened before he splashed himself with the cold water, the shock of it taking away his burning feelings. What did you do? Taking deep breaths, he calmed himself down. It's this seal. It was made to blend our chakras together and weaken over time to give you power. Took little over half a decade for you to hear my voice and visit. Now, you can manifest a cloak of my chakra with a single tail. That yellow dipshit. Naruto dunked the top of his head in the flowing ice-cold water, his eyes flickering between red and blue in the moonlight reflection. Really couldn't let me have anything to myself. My mind, my body, my life. He pulled himself out. I'm going to take all of it back and make them regret everything. You die if I am ever freed from you, and the fourth is dead, so good luck with that. I'll find a way. He turned to go back, but splashing contrary to the stream's natural noise drew his attention. Drawing chakra to his limbs, he jumped to and swung from tree to tree, using himself as a vine, appearing like a monkey with no patience for the foliage to accommodate him. He stopped some ways from the end of a waterfall and saw a lithe figure bounce from the ball of 1 foot on the water to the other towards it. When she reached the center of the forming river, she turned her body and stood evenly on both feet, suspending her above the water. She shifted her weight to 1 foot before using it to launch herself up. Her body twisted in the night air as her arms circled. She returned to a neutral position and landed on her feet, droplets of water forming a sphere she used the motions of her entire body to create. Wow. Naruto clapped his hands and smiled while the figure glanced at his direction. That wah. He paused as it jumped into the other side of the forest. Beautiful. Groaning, he headed back to his sleeping bag. The morning after they spent eating their packed meals. Ramen in a thermos for Naruto and rice balls in a wrap for Sasuke. While the air was chilly, it was exhilarating for them to be in. They set up a picnic tarp to sit on, which would make anyone who walked in on them mistake it for some kind of romantic date. I'm telling you, man. Naruto leaned his thermos and pulled out some noodles with his chopsticks. This looks really gay. And I don't mean those guys are too friendly gay. I mean, those guys are so gay they came out here so no one would see them gay. Sasuke's eye twitched. You wanted to come out here, and when have you ever cared about what people think about you? He slurped some noodles and licked his lips. I care when it might lessen my chances of getting laid. He raised an eyebrow at his comrade's look. You of all people should care about having sex. It's not like your clan is going to reproduce itself. When Itachi is dead, I'll restore my clan. Sasuke's expression soured. I can't have children until I'm sure they're safe. But is making sure there's no more other Uchiha what he wanted? He left you alive. He told me he wanted to test himself against the clan. Said I was his last challenge. Wanted me to become as powerful as I could and face him. Naruto hummed. Not Old Man Hokage, other Kage, or even entire villages. That doesn't make sense. I'm starting to realize that now, but I don't have anything else to go off of. Itachi wasn't an idiot. Sasuke took a bite out of his rice ball. And I doubt anyone can fake a smile for every day of their entire lives. Something must have happened, I just don't know what. They ate in silence for a minute after. Not much else could be said after discussing the motives of a mass-murdering kinslayer. It started off tame in comparison. So you ever gonna fuck Sakura? Sasuke nearly choked on his rice as he swallowed it. What is it with you and sex? You're making me feel like the only guy in our class that hit puberty. Naruto's cheeks grew a pink tint. I used to hang around the red light district a lot. Saw a lot of people have sex and thought it was weird. Moment my balls dropped, I understood everything, even the girls in black strips. He laughed. It's why I stopped going as much. She's a comrade. I think getting involved that way will interfere with our missions, at least right now. Sasuke smirked. Is there anyone you're interested in that's actually our age? He shook his head, paused, and raised a hand to his chin. I saw a girl by the waterfall last night. She was walking on the water, so she had to be a ninja. Smiling, he made her arm motions, thermos and chopsticks still in hands. The water moved with her. It was beautiful. He paused at Sasuke's confused stare. What? All of that talk about wanting women with big and the one you're attracted to just moves in pretty ways. We're barely teenagers. I doubt there's any girl our age that can really fill a hand. Naruto scratched his whiskered cheek with a finger. And I couldn't really see her body in the dark or tell who she was. Are you sure you just weren't dreaming or something? I heard that happens sometimes. Sasuke suppressed the curiosity he felt that inclined him to look anywhere close to his teammate's crotch. If that were a dream, I would have thought I drenched my shorts when I woke up because something definitely would have happened if it were. You were already thinking it. Naruto sipped some soup from his thermos and looked around at their surroundings. It's nice here, isn't it? Like wave. Sasuke munched away the rest of his rice ball. The town was an eyesore. What town isn't an eyesore? I mean the forest. You don't like being around people, do you? Naruto nodded. I said I hated almost everyone, and I meant it. He scowled. There's always something stupid almost everyone is thinking or doing. They'll tell you live and let live, then turn around to say someone else should suffer. Tell you you're a weapon and tell you not to be one. Say people should be strong but watch the words you use. Groaning, he let himself fall back on the tarp, looking up to the blue sky. Is it hard to be honest? To not be a hypocrite? So what if I'm an asshole few people like? When I say something, people believe it and listen. I never thought you were an asshole, Sasuke said, taking another rice ball in his hand. I just thought you were too dumb to have restraint. From punching Iruka, jumping out the window, stealing from the Hokage, provoking me with Itachi, what you said about Sakura being incapable of defending herself, killing that Chunin that tried to ambush us, and attacking Zabuza without a second thought after he trapped Kakashi. He took a bite out of it, munched, and swallowed. Almost like you're trying to get yourself killed. This from the guy who took a blow that killed him for me? Naruto grimaced at the memory. Those last words of yours. It was a spur of the moment, Sasuke said, grateful he couldn't see the red on his face. Being around you doesn't make me feel alone. Obviously, someone is with you. Naruto laughed. Yeah. Stupid, I know. He lifted his upper body up and dug back into his ramen thermos. Less fit Tertis. Don't talk while you eat. Sasuke finished his rice ball. USND Likame. That's because I'm trying to stop you from choking. Naruto swallowed and looked at what he had left. I might have to swing by Ichiraku for some more. He looked up to Sasuke and his rice balls. You up for staying out here for a while? When we're not doing missions or training with Sakura and Kakashi sensei, I mean. Not like I have anyone waiting for me back home. Sasuke hummed. But if neither of us bathes, we're going to stink. Oh yeah, bathing. Sasuke shot him a look. You need to take better care of yourself. Now you sound like Iruka sensei. Naruto sighed. Let's pack up and leave after we're done with some sparring. Don't want to give people the wrong impression, do you? The ladies at least. I thought they actually liked that sort of thing. Naruto raised an educated finger. They like seeing guys together, but they don't actually like the idea of being with a man that also goes with guys. He lowered it. I don't get it because a girl that goes with girls is a man's dream. In the end, we're different like that. Sasuke's eyes grew doubtful. I have never seen you interact with a woman in any meaningful way. How do you know? You don't need to be around girls all the time to know how they think. Like, let's talk about you and the girls you attract. Naruto smirked. No matter how you treat them, they will still simp for you because you're a pretty boy. Simp. Sasuke blinked. I'm a pretty boy. It means unrequited lovey-dovey dumbus who still goes for someone that shows no interest, especially if they've said no. Naruto frowned and scoffed. And yes, you're a dude who can probably pass for a chick. They love that. Don't ask me why, girls are weird. It was Sasuke's turn to smirk. What does that make you? A social outcast. An average social outcast, so my chances in the village are super low. Girls like bad boys but not bad boys that will make them look bad for being with. I know it sounds confusing, but that's just how they are. Social outcasts just attract other social outcasts. Never met anyone who was as much as an outcast as I was in the village, so I'm probably shit out of luck. Never thought I'd hear you give up on something. Who says I'm giving up? Naruto laughed. I just need to show how much better I am than everyone or go out of the village. Bound to meet someone one of these days who wants me, but I can go without. I'm used to being alone. So am I. Closing up his thermos, Naruto put his chopsticks away and stood up. You ready for a fight? Yeah. Sasuke's eyes whirled, revealing his stage 2 Sharingan. Are you? He pushed himself up and followed him away from their camping site. They fought, packed up, reported for their terrible D-rank mission, completed it, and trained again. Unbeknownst them, summoning birds flew the sky. Their purpose was lost on most people, but known by high-ranking Chunin and Jonin. It was the beginning of a Chunin exam that would forever be remembered and lamented by everyone involved. Sometime in the afternoon, Naruto was on his way to Ichiraku's after his team's usual post-mission training. Sakura was held back by Kakashi to learn another Ninjutsu, and Sasuke wanted to shower away the grime of the day. The looks he got were nothing new, so it didn't bother him as much as the empty feeling in his chest. And then he saw Konohamaru being held up by someone obscured by a fence. He wasted no time. Jumping onto it, he created 2 clones at the side of a duo and descended on them. A blonde girl tried to unfurl a fan of all things, but a clone stuck to it with its chakra to root it to the ground and the other drew a kunai to her throat. The one holding Konohamaru wore a hood that restricted his visual range, so he wasn't able to react to Naruto pushing him to the ground with his foot on the back of his head, his other pressing against some bandage load on his back. "Boss." Konohamaru, clad in a hoodie and bandages, cried. "I heard you were back." Naruto ignored him in favor of the man beneath his feet. "Move and I kill your girlfriend." "She's my sister," he said. "He's my brother," she said at the same time. Oh, all 3 Narutos looked the girl up and down. "Can I go out with her? Just kill me and get it over with because that would be less painful than dating a dirty runt like you." Konohamaru picked himself off the ground and saw the dismayed expression on the various Naruto's faces. "You can do better, bosses." He blinked. "Wait, what?" "Shut up." The real one glared into the man's eyes, his own turning red. "The only one who gets to push Konohamaru around is me." He walked off him and shook his head free of anger. "Really, what are you doing?" He raised an eyebrow as the man rose, displaying a Sand Village forehead protector on his hood. "Are you invading us?" "I'd start with the grown-ups first, kabuki face. I mean, they can actually fight back." "You're a real funny guy." He shared a look with his sister and wiggled his fingers. "Fucking Ichiha." A stone hit his shoulder while the other passed by the girl's face. "I take offense to that," Sasuke said, sitting on a tree branch looking fresh in comparison to his teammate. He tossed a few stones in the air and caught them. "He looks nothing like me." Naruto and his clones noticed the blonde girl blushing at the sight of him. "I have this entire situation under control." One of the clones punctuated his statement by spanking the hostage, something it was slapped out of existence for. "Mostly under control." The oddly dressed man hefted the wrap thing off his back. "You bastards. Tenkuro, are you really going to use Karasu?" his sister asked. "Stop it." A soft voice behind Sasuke commanded. "You're both disgraces to our village." They turned and saw a red-haired boy with a gourd on his back and the character for love engraved above his left eye, hanging upside down on a branch with his feet. "Gaara." Tenkuro swallowed a lump in his throat. "Starting a fight you couldn't win, how pathetic. Do you even remember why we came here?" They shut up. His eyes betrayed no emotion. "I'll kill you." "I'm sorry." Tenkuro bowed his head. His sister followed suit and the remaining clone, purpose done, dispersed itself. "I'm sorry too." Our body flickered between the two. "Let's go." "Before you do." Sasuke body flickered himself to Naruto's side. "Why are you here?" "Shinobi from other villages aren't allowed in without permission." "I'm Tamari." The girl introduced herself with a wave, hints of pink on her face. "We're here to take the Chunin exams." "You're Genin too, right?" She inclined her head an inch. "Maybe we'll see each other there." "I am Gaara of the desert," he said, disregarding Tamari. "Who are you two?" "Sasuke Uchiha." The other pointed his thumb at himself. "Naruto Uzumaki." But the Gaara body flickered away one last time, the other 2 sand villagers following his lead. The beast within Naruto stirred but said nothing and its host didn't care at all to communicate with it at the moment. "That was fucking awesome." Konohamaru jumped in the air. "Are you going to beat that fire crotch weirdo, boss?" Naruto shared a look with Sasuke and nodded with him. "No more waste of time D-ranks. We make Chunin and never have to deal with them again." He turned to his idolizer. "Been a while, are those bandages real?" Well, no. Konohamaru, I told you there's no shortcuts to getting what you want. I was getting into fights all the time when I was your age." Naruto pointed a thumb at Sasuke. "If you can't find yourself someone to keep pace with, just start shit with people. You're the Hokage's grandson. You'll get away with it." He nodded. "I'll find myself a gloomy douchebag or just punch everyone." He ran off, hoping to do just that. Was that really the best thing to tell him? Sasuke asked. "I came out just fine, didn't I?" Naruto grimaced at his teammate's look. "Oh come on, I wasn't that bad." Sasuke started leading him for the rest of the way to Ichiraku's, knowing that's where the boy in orange was headed. "You jumped out of a window. What does that have to do with anything?" "It's the first thing that comes to mind when I think about how you were before the fight on the Kaiza Bridge, other than you punching Iruka. One time. Just the one time. You still did it." Naruto scratched the back of his head. He drifted off. There was much he wasn't ready to talk about. The root of those outbursts was something he never wanted to. It was just one of those things, Sasuke. An unheard doubtful hum was his only response. They went to Ichiraku's, ate and went to their apartments. Every member of Team 7 found a note on their front door to meet their sensei the next morning. There was a specific time for it, but they sincerely doubted he'd be there. As usual, the genin of Team 7 were at the selected meeting place far before their jonin was. Their wait time was spent mostly conversing with each other about mundane things or talking about ways to counter jutsu. Sakura taught them basic ninjutsu release some time ago, something both forgot not long after learning it. Ninjutsu was seldom used by shinobi, and it was something the academy didn't go over enough in her opinion. Zabuza, the demon of the mist, fell for the most basic ninjutsu cast by her, which was all Kakashi needed to beat him with a single jutsu. "Morning everyone." Kakashi greeted, appearing at the top of the nearest torii gate. "Sorry I'm late. I got lost on the path of life." "Why do you even bother at this point?" Sakura asked. He dropped down and shrugged. "Habit. This is a bit sudden, but I nominated you guys for the Chunin exams." Fishing 3 papers from his pockets, he handed them out, and they all took them. "This almost makes up for how much you've been focusing on Sakura," Naruto said, grinning at the piece of paper. "It's just a nomination. You have to actually pass it." He looked to the pink-haired girl in question. "And I've been focusing on Sakura because she needed more help than the both of you." She nearly hung her head but held it up in pride. "I'm not the girl who fainted and did nothing during the bell test anymore. This time, we're going to blitz through this thing." "You've got that right," Sasuke said. He glanced at their Jonin. "But it would have been nice to learn a jutsu or two other than the body flicker. Look, I know how enticing the idea of learning new jutsu can be, but you have to realize knowing a lot of jutsu doesn't make you a good shinobi." Kakashi's eye was warm yet stern. "Basics and fundamentals will get you farther than knowing how to spit fire and shoot lightning." He looked to Naruto. "I'm not sure if you've realized it, but you already know the best jutsu a taijutsu specialist can have. Creating clones just as skilled as you. You've been so focused on overcoming Sasuke outright you haven't used your shadow clones to your advantage. There is no one you will have better coordination with than yourself. Fight smarter, not harder." He looked to Sasuke. "And you are just as straightforward. The Sharingan is a powerful taijutsu, but it can only carry you so far. One day, you will encounter an enemy you can't see through or fight directly. Your fire ninjutsu are powerful, but they're draining. Make an opening, trap your enemy, and burn them to dust." "And I guess I should just keep playing support?" Sakura asked. His eye gazed on her. "You are all supporting each other. Naruto and Sasuke covering each other and you while you cover for them. I haven't been teaching you anything special because you already have what you need. Understand?" He nodded as all 3 did. "Sign those papers and turn them in at room 301 by 4 p.m. tomorrow if you want to enter the Chunin exams." The body flickered away from the men onto a branch not that far away. A man in a green cat mask sitting on the branch said, "Hey. It's been a while, Kakashi." "Tenzo, what are you doing? Did Lord Hokage not tell you?" He stood up. "I've been assigned to help keep an eye on Naruto Uzumaki in case he manifests the 9 tails chakra." "Since when?" "This morning." Tenzo rubbed the back of his head. "Sorry if it's a little sudden." Kakashi raised his eyebrow. "I didn't think Lord Third would be concerned enough to have you shadow Naruto. He's likely to be taking the Chunin exams. Seems like that's why he assigned me. Who knows what's likely to happen. Better to be safe than to be sorry. Well, don't expect him to be happy if he finds out you're trailing him." He shot him a look, knowing he was making a face beneath his mask. The kid stole the scroll of seals beneath everyone's noses. Jonin, Anbu, Inuzuka trackers, and Aburam trackers couldn't find him before Iruka did, and that was after he learned the shadow clone jutsu. "Oh yeah. I was out of the village for that. How the hell did that happen?" Kakashi shrugged. "Naruto's got excellent stealth skills. He just doesn't care to use them unless he has to. Given a choice between violence and secrecy, he's all for violence. Looks like he's leaving now." He shifted his fingers to make the hand seal, but a hand grabbed his wrist. "Kakashi. Tenzo, he's Minato's son. Have faith. If you interfere without good cause in the exams, you'll ruin it for him. You're likely to even harm his relationship with Lord Third. I'm not asking you to not do your job, but I am asking you to complete it with as little interference as possible. Do you understand me?" "Yeah, I do, Kakashi." He let go. "Don't let me keep you." Making the tiger seal, he vanished. "I haven't seen you anywhere near that level of emotion since I made the mistake of bringing up Rin." Tenzo looked at Naruto in the distance chatting with his 2 teammates. "Guess I'll get to see firsthand what makes you such a lovable little delinquent." He body flickered to a better, concealed vantage point and watched. Their time in the Anbu was a dark yet formative period of their lives. Might Guy, Kakashi's self-proclaimed rival, pleaded for the 3rd Hokage to release him, rightfully concerned about his declining mental state. Tenzo didn't oppose because he saw it for himself. It was sad to watch him leave, but he was far more together than he was all those years ago. He just hoped the man wasn't too soft now. They arrived at the academy the morning after to find it bustling with native and foreign ninja. It was an odd sight for anyone familiar with the academy. Most people found it a miserable or dour place to be in. For once, it was a beacon of excitement. Not even graduation day could compare. On the 2nd floor, they saw a crowd of ninjas surrounding the entrance to a classroom labeled 301. Team 7 did their best not to laugh while maneuvering through the horde of apparently brain-damaged pathetic excuses for ninja. One of them seemed to recognize a member of whatever drama was unfolding right outside it. They recognized him too, unfortunately. Naruto Uzumaki. The boy in orange, currently leading them to the staircase to third floor, paused. A dead last failure? A cold voice asked. Ah, I remember that one. The girlish voice laughed. Even I managed to make a single clone. To think they let a worthless failure like you pass out of pity. Sasuke and Sakura turned to glare at the familiar face, but an echoing smash to their right drew their attention. Naruto's fist was embedded into a wall, which now bore cracks going from the top of it to the bottom. His hand was freed with a squelch accompanied by the pitter-patter of blood falling on the ground. Without words, he kept walking, taking deep breaths to make his nine tails-influenced features go away. One of the brain-damaged foreign ninja vocalized what all of them were thinking. Holy shit. The green blur cut through the crowd and stopped in front of the boy in orange as his eyes went back to blue. Fight me, Naruto. Bushy brows, please. He put his forehead protector against the green jumpsuit boy's bare forehead, glaring directly into his eyes. Not. Now. Restraint. Are you Naruto Uzumaki? He leaned to see the two other members of Team 7. This as he drifted off upon sight of Sakura. Hi. My name is Rock Lee. He blinked as the former object of his attention brushed past him. Wait, Naruto. How do you know Naruto? Sasuke asked, sparing a glance at the aftermath of his latest outburst. That old dead last. The girl of their squad said, walking over to them. He was in our class group and he was one hell of a delinquent. She looked to the wall. Don't tell him I said that. Name's Tenten. He was a worthy opponent and a fellow determined rival of Niji, Lee said. But his behavior and grades got him sent back a year. He looked at the damaged wall. I am pleased to see he has improved phenomenally since our time together. I'm Sakura Haruno. She too joined in the wall staring. If you know Naruto, you know he doesn't know when to stop. Sasuke frowned. He's been holding back on me. He looked to Lee as he was about to ask. I'm Sasuke Uchiha. Please. He bowed. Fight me. I have a teammate to check up on. Lee stood straight. That can wait. I wish to test myself against someone of Naruto's new strength. His eyes burned with determination. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of your time. Sasuke looked back for a few seconds and shrugged. Sure, why not? He followed Lee and Sakura, although being concerned about Naruto, went with him. Naruto, on the other hand, was on the third floor facing down the room and Kakashi on an open hall. What are you doing here? What happened to you? His eye glanced at the trail of blood behind him, evidently caused by his bloody hand. None of your fucking business. He walked forward, but a held-out hand stopped him. What? You can only take the test with a team of 3. What? I didn't want anyone to feel pressured, specifically Sakura. Kakashi's eye grew worried as Naruto began to shake. Did they not come? They're here. He jumped onto the railing and sat on it, dangling his legs over the edge. Looking up to the blue sky, he took a deep breath. Just fucking around with some old dipshits I know for some retarded reason. Not friendly, huh? I want to rip his eyes out and feed them to him. Naruto grumbled. That was one of the worst years of my entire life. This place has been host to a few. Would burn it down if I could. You know that won't solve your problems or why you feel about it the way you do. Kakashi jumped over and sat next to him. It's not like you're here for another year. It's just for the Chunin exams. His eyes remained fixated on the side above him. I hate this place. Heard you the first time. That's not what I meant. They sat together in silence. Part of Kakashi wanted to dig deeper, but Naruto was relapsing to his old self. He didn't know what the root of the issue was this time. Naruto didn't want to talk about it anyway. Eventually, the rest of Team 7 showed up. About damn time. Naruto shifted on the railing and saw a bruised-up Sasuke. That douchebag Niji kick your ass. Lee, he answered. Sakura hummed. Was Niji Sasuke before you met Sasuke? Not at all. He dropped off and Kakashi followed suit. All 3 of us needed to check in. Turns out you can only take this test in teams of 3 for some retarded reason. He rolled his eyes. Remember? Teamwork. I know. Naruto walked over to the entrance as Sasuke and Sakura pushed the doors open. Let's do this. They entered the room for the Chunin exams and saw crowds of ninja, presumably not brain damaged, inside. From the village hidden in the rain to the village hidden in the clouds. It was common for Chunin exams but uncommon in any other occasion. And inside was their old classmates. Sasuke no cried and jumped to grab the Uchiha from behind but got a jab to the gut instead. She stepped back when she landed. You ugly forehead. Sakura put her hands on her face, feigning shock. My fist moved on its own. I've been training so hard and fighting by Sasuke for so long. You guys are taking this troublesome test too? Shikamaru asked, leaning on a nearby wall. Choji was on his right and munching on chips as he usually did. Team 10. Naruto's eyes flicked over the three. More like Team Weakling. The three of you look exactly the same as when you left the academy. Shikamaru groaned. Some things never change. Like you, I mean. I'm with him, Sasuke said, drawing their eyes. The three of you look pathetic. I'm surprised one of you hasn't gotten killed. Okay, the Nara blinked as Ino deflated. Biba walked over with Hinata and Shino behind him. Hey. He looked at the other six. Looks like our entire class is taking the exam. I wonder how far we'll get. He turned to their class's best student. Sasuke. He made a face as the Uchiha scoffed. We did a lot of training. We're not going to lose to you. Did your team face down a Jonin and save your team leader? Did you complete an A rank mission? The look on the Inuzuka's face was on most of their classmates. No. Then shut the fuck up, Naruto said, smug grin on his face. He was happy his braggartness was rubbing off on his teammates. Pointing his bloodied hand finger at Kiba, he laughed. If your experiences amount to chakra-less bandits and wood dummies, you're not gonna last 2 minutes against us. Sasuke pointed his thumb at the boy in orange. Him and I alone can run through the six of you. With Sakura. It's not even a fight. We're unstoppable, Sakura chimed in, blushing. Shikamaru laughed and looked at the unlikely duo. Since when were you two friends? We're not friends. They yelled in unison. Never thought I'd see the day. Kiba shook his head. His nose twitched. Also, your unstoppable orange jackass is bleeding. Hinata fished bandages from a pouch and stepped towards him. Naruto, give me your hand. She tried to ignore the looks from everyone but him she got. They never saw them interact much and the last time they did, she ran away. Bitsy shrugged and held it out. Their former classmates watched the quietest member and the loudest sit together. She wrapped the medicine-infused absorbent cloth at the tips of his fingers to his wrist as she did years ago. He stood still and held his hand in the convenient positions. When they were finished, their eyes were still on them. What the hell are you all looking at? Naruto asked, standing up. He looked at Hinata as she rose as well. I'm not going to go easy on you. Hey. Kiba stepped forward, but an arm from his teammate stopped him. I don't expect you to. Hinata stepped back with a hint of a blush on her face, rejoining her team. I want to fight you to the fullest too. Sakura leaned her head over Ino's shoulder. Is it me or is she flirting with him in his language? Ino shrugged. She's usually quiet or stuttering. She blinked. Wait a minute. Why are you acting like we're friends? Women, Shikamaru said. Sasuke nodded. I don't know why you want a girlfriend so much, Naruto. I just want to feel some titties, man. Yet the waterfall girl in your dreams just moved pretty, Sasuke said, unknowingly making Hinata freeze. Naruto shook his head. I told you it wasn't a dream. I was awake. She was walking on water. It followed her with every move she made with her body. It was beautiful. Hinata. Kiba said, staring at the now beet red and shivering girl. Shino adjusted his glasses. She's fine. Just give her time to process. She taught him her gentle fist, so he knew what was happening. Process what? Troublesome, Shikamaru said. Her caring action was suspicious. Her reaction to hearing Naruto's words were confirmation. Just troublesome. You guys are rookies just out of the academy, right? An unfamiliar shinobi with a leaf head protector approached and asked. Screaming like schoolgirls, geez. This isn't a picnic. Ino frowned. Who do you think you are? I'm Kabuto. He adjusted his glasses. Look behind you. Sakura, Shikamaru and Naruto did and saw stern and staring rain ninja. Those guys hey, pussies. Naruto yelled. You just going to look all day or are you going to do something? He scoffed as they looked away. That's what I thought, know your fucking place. I've been here 7 times. The exam is held twice a year and this is my 4th. It's a bad idea to attract attention to yourself. He pulled out some cards. Want some info? Naruto slapped them out of his hands, to the chagrin of most of the other Leaf Genin watching. Don't make this boring. Kabuto's eye twitched at his spilled out deck of empty cards. Well, I can tell you off the top of my head that there are ninja from all over here. All talented and skilled in different ways. Probably better than you. He blinked as the looks focused on him. What? You fucking idiot, Shikamaru said, a phrase everyone else agreed with. Naruto brought his fingers together and the entire room became populated by Narutos. There were 150 genin in the room to take the exam. Each had at least one Naruto in their face. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, they all said at the same time, creating an unfathomably Naruto symphony. I'm going to take you down. When they poofed, all anyone could see was smoke for a solid minute. Kakashi, leaning on the door, shook his head. Tenzo, who was transformed as a teenage version of himself next to him, did the same. That boy was something else entirely. Was that really necessary? Kabuto asked. Sasuke was smirking. You should have known not to the moment he slapped the cards out of your hand. The entrance opened and the team that was held up on the second floor entered. For a moment, blue eyes met pure white. It had been years, other than the second floor, they saw each other. neither could ever forget. Naruto closed his when the anger flared too much. Another explosion of smoke at the teacher's area of the class thankfully signaled progress in the exam. "I am Ibiki Marino." A man with a scarred face and bandana forehead protector yelled, crew of men in identical suits at his back. "The examiner for the Chunin exam's first test. Instead of your current seating arrangements." He picked up a numbered tab made of wood. "You will be assigned a number and take the seat in accordance with it. We will then hand out exams." The atmosphere around Naruto that was brimming with hot-blooded bravado gave way to nerve-wrenching anxiety. It felt as if they were about to die at any second. None of their dreams would come true and they'd have to spend eternity failing in the academy. Deep inside, the nine-tailed fox was roaring in laughter. "Oh shit, here we go again," Shikamaru said, grimacing at the sight of a shivering Naruto. They were assigned seats, one by one. When it was Naruto's turn, the proctor felt pride in his ability to break even the strongest of wills. Hinata ended up in the seat to his right, not that he was in any mood to notice. Some foreigner was to his left. Ibiki went over the rules, but the dead last understood he was already doomed. "Begin." And Naruto slammed his head against the table desk. Clenching his teeth, he took deep breaths to calm himself down. It didn't work, but he liked to think it would. Hinata, on the other hand, had zero issues with the test. She jotted down what she knew and stole what she didn't with her Byakugan. What she had difficulty with was the boy she admired overcome with anxiety she only saw on their graduation day. This side of him was something they never knew existed, but she knew he hid kindness beneath his rigid exterior. He was not the type to take charity, so she had to encourage him. What she needed to say was not what he wanted to hear but needed to. "Are you this weak?" Well. The meek one of all people is finally seeing the truth." Naruto's heavy breathing slowly stopped. He lifted his head and looked into Hinata's eyes. Keeping his gaze on her, he tested her resolve. It was the only way to gauge her intentions. Hinata did not blink. She really wanted to, but she knew what he was doing. This time would be different. When he stared her down or went for a punch, she would not falter. And when he made his challenges, she would accept. Kurenai told her to go for what she wanted and she was because that's what he would have done. After a solid minute, Naruto nodded. Hinata nodded back, her cheeks steadily turning red, to his approval. "Thanks. You've improved since the academy, huh?" She nodded again. The reason was simple. He acknowledged her when she challenged him. She'd admired him from afar, but a taste of his desire made her want more, even if it wasn't romantic. That led to him stumbling upon her that night. While embarrassing, she felt flattered. Naruto put his elbow on the table and rested his chin on his palm. He had to gamble everything on the final question. If that's what it would take, that's what he would do. Until then, he had to keep himself from giving up on himself. He acted shamefully enough. Eventually, the hour was nearing its end. "We will begin the 10th question. For this question, you must decide whether to take it or not. If you choose not, your points will be reduced to 0 and you will fail along with your teammates." Ibiki ignored the cries of the other genin. "If you choose to take it and answer incorrectly, you will lose the right to ever take the Chunin exam again." "Bullshit." Kiba pointed at the man. "There are plenty of people here who have taken the exam before. Just plain old back luck. This year things go by my rules. At least I'm giving you an out. If you don't want to risk it all, just take it next year. Those who wish not to take it, raise your hand. Once your number is confirmed, leave." Naruto leaned back in his seat, kicked up his legs, and flicked his pencil at the proctor, to the surprise of everyone else in the room. "What the hell was that? Just prodding you?" Naruto frowned. "Honestly, you're pretty disappointing. I only panicked because I suck at tests. This entire thing really is a crock of shit." Ibiki's eyes narrowed. "Aren't you a cocky little bastard? The last Jonin I stared down actually tried to kill me. You're going to have to try harder than that to even make me remember your name." The proctor kept up his stare. Genin after genin flunked out and he held his gaze. Tension between the two grew so palatable someone could cut it with a knife. Eventually, he closed his eyes. "To everyone still remaining, I congratulate you on passing the first test." He explained to a shocked crowd of genin about the purpose of the test to gather information, the meaning of taking risk behind the final question, showed off his torture scars as example of such risk, and wished them good luck. And then something crashed through the window, driving the members of Naruto's former class to check if he was still in his seat. That something was a woman in fishnets, a skirt and a coat wrapped in a banner. She threw the two kunai it was tied to at the ceiling of the room. Planting her foot on the ground, she used her leftover momentum to whip her body straight, a stylish flourish of her physical ability. "This is no time to be celebrating. I am the proctor for the second test, Anko Mitarashi. Now let's go." She pumped her fist into the air. "Follow me." Naruto jumped up from his seat and returned the gesture, to her utter delight. "Fuck yeah." Almost everyone stared in horror at the female equivalent of their hot-headed delinquent, complimenting the other almost perfectly. It was the start of another odd, long, and tragic relationship. Also, it was the start of the second test. What happened would change the direction of far too many lives. The 26 remaining teams of Genin stood in front of a large fence perimeter. Beyond it was a forest with towering trees and, unknown to most of them, treacherous wildlife. Warning signs were posted on the link chains. Even the first gate had half a dozen locks and a tag warning of danger. It was overkill but not without good reason. Welcome to the stage of the second test, Arena 44. The Forest of Death. Anko smiled oh so maliciously. You'll find out for yourself why it's called that. Naruto rolled his eyes. Bitch, please. I was more scared of the freaking paper exam. Anko drew a kunai, threw it at the boy's whiskered cheek, and was behind him in the span of a second. Bitch. Securing him by the shoulder and the other cheek, she dragged her tongue from his jaw to the bleeding cut she made, establishing her dominance. You're lucky I like you. He glanced back and saw her slight blush. Then she saw her draw another kunai when some foreign ninja handed the one with his blood on it back with her tongue of all things, killing his growing erection. Here's your kunai, the ninja somehow said. Anko's reddened tongue snaked back into her mouth. Why thank you. She took it, holding the two kunai together. But the next time you get behind me, I just might kill you. The stranger stepped back and sheathed her own overly long tongue. I just get excited when I see fresh blood. And you cut my hair, I couldn't help it. She walked back to her team. Giba, who could smell certain feelings and pheromones, grimaced. Those three really are freaks. Naruto, Hinata whispered. This is going to be fun. Anko fished some papers from her inner coat jacket after putting away her kunai. Before we begin, I need you to sign these consent forms. Some of you will die and it'd be a shame if I was held responsible for your bitch-ass selves, but first, let me explain. She went over the layout of the forest, the goal to reach the tower, the competition for scrolls, the rules for disqualification, and then handed out the forms. Oh. She pointed at a far-off tree branch. And unless the Hokage himself was here to permit your presence, you can fuck right off, you green cat mask bitch. She laughed as nearly everyone else made confused faces. Yeah, you. I can see you. Shaking her head, her hand fell back to her side. Fucking Anbu. A stranger hummed as she filled out her application. They noticed it as well, but didn't find anything really noteworthy. Seemed much like a rogue or independent agent. Whoever it was, they seemed to be interested in someone taking the exam. They would have been apprehended already if they were suspicious enough to warrant a tail. The team signed their applications and got their scrolls. Each got a gate to make sure everyone had a slightly even shot. Instructors led them to their assigned entrances as the only one with keys. All were let in at the same time too. Let's fucking do this. Naruto punched into his open palm. Sakura frowned. That woman was a little too close to you. And who was she talking about? She had tits. He held out his hands and squeezed. Nice big tits. Sasuke shook his head while Sakura twitched. Wishu's screams in the distance cut him off. Focus on the goal at hand. First, I need to take a piss. He gave a wave and walked towards the foliage, knowing his teammates would protest him doing it in front of them. Behind a tree, he moved to unzip his fly but shifted into an elbow when he heard ruffling grass behind him. He spun on his heel to face a recoiling Hidden Rain Village Genin. He followed with a kick to his gut and jumped onto his back when he keeled over, driving him flat against the ground. I knew you were there, by the way. He picked him up, dragged him out, and threw him over to his teammates. Already? Sakura asked. She made a few hand seals. Let me figure out what he knows. No need. Naruto hopped over, squatted down, and broke one of his fingers, making him scream. She winced. We're attracting attention this way, and isn't that a bit much? You've been on edge since we met Rock Lee's team, Sasuke said, putting a hand on his shoulder. Naruto broke another of the Rain Ninja's fingers. I know. He focused on their captive. But we need to know where the other two are. Ninjutsu. Sakura pointed at herself and pointed at the squirming stranger. Mind rape. Only action you'll get anytime soon. He flinched at her displeased gaze. Sorry. The Rain Ninja grunted. I came here alone, you asshole. I don't have my scroll either, and I told them to go on ahead without me. Sasuke moved an arm in Naruto's way when he drew kunai. I mean it. You're off center. I'm not sure what's going on or what you're feeling, but we have more important things to do than torture some weakling. Hey, fuck you, leaf brat. Are you sure you don't want me to? Naruto asked. He shrugged and moved his hands to his fly when his partner nodded. At least let me take that piss. What? Sure, Sasuke said, walking away to give him space. Sakura held back laughter following him. No. No. The Rain Ninja couldn't help but cry, literally, at the disrespectful treatment he suffered. He was left with 2 broken fingers, possibly a ruptured intestine, bruised ribs, and covered in another man's waste. Nothing could restore his pride. His enemy left him catatonic. Naruto snickered to himself as he pulled his fly up. That guy was from the Hidden Rain village, right? He joined the rest of his team and they kept moving. Think he'd be used to it. You're so awful. Sakura giggled. Sasuke kept his smile hidden from the other two. Let's not waste any. A concentrated blast of wind staggered him. He rolled to take cover in the foliage and Sakura did the same, being the closest to him and able to see his action. All focus shifted to Naruto, blowing him far away and right into a tree. Son of a cunt. He stood himself up and was met with the sight of a giant snake the size of the forest root slithering towards him. Ah, fuck. He narrowly dodged a bite, but he failed to take into account the lack of limbs and flexibility of a snake. It coiled its tail around his body. Ah, he said, getting an eyeful of the creature's oral anatomy, fuck. The world around him became pink and moist as it swallowed him whole. To think you'd die by becoming snake dung. The tailed beast laughed. Naruto's eyes turned red for a few seconds, but faded back to blue. No way in hell. He put his fingers together for the shadow clone jutsu. If he could create enough to fill a classroom, he could create more than enough to overwhelm the beast and make it spit him out, if not kill it. Like a cockroach infested with wasp eggs, the giant snake exploded forth over 100 Narutos. He collectively wiped the blood off his face, blinked, and took a deep breath, creating another Naruto chorus. I am Naruto Uzumaki. The original cleared his throat. You all know what I'm thinking. Right now, you're not just me, and I'm not the real Naruto. We are Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki, the many yet only. The army of Narutos nodded with him. Now. Tell me. What are we going to do? Kill them all. They raised their fists into the air. And who are we going to kill? Everyone not Team 7. But who especially are we going to mutilate the absolute fuck out of? Any spineless fucking snake we come across. He raised his own fist in the air. We are Naruto. He aimed it at the center of the forest. Let's go. The tide of orange and blue swept through the forest, screaming bloody murder all the way. Enko, all the way back to where she introduced her test takers, held onto her sides at the coming storm. Oh, fuck. Oh hell. I knew that little bastard was going to be fun. Laughing, she looked at the screaming Naruto scouting the farthest reaches of the forest. Keep going, boys. She wiped the tears from her eyes and cooed. I want one. Denzo was on the branch he was shooed away from, staring with his mouth gaping beneath his mask. Little did they know of what was to come. Teammate was comfortable in their safe spot surrounded by traps when they heard the screaming. As that Kiba drifted off, his back on the ground. Naruto. Hinata, leaning on a nearby tree, activated her Byakugan and jolted straight. He's coming. Big deal. He blinked as the yells grew closer and in number. They're shadow clones. He kipped up to his feet. How many? A drop of sweat ran down his face when her lips parted and closed again and again until she just shook her head. Oh right, he filled the fucking classroom. His eyes widened. Oh shit. He filled the fucking classroom. Yells and poofs surrounded them for a few seconds before two Narutos swung like rabid monkeys from the highest trees into their safe zone. Well. One ran, dropped, and hooked Kiba's leg with his knees, rooting him, while the other jumped in and punched him twice in the face. What we have here? Hinata jumped onto the Naruto hooking her teammate's leg, turning him to smoke, and Akamaru jumped from his owner's sweater to bite the other clone in the face. Kiba steadied himself and wiped blood from his split lip. He's been training with Sasuke. He crouched down and picked up his dog. Several wasps emerged from Shino, who was still sitting on the ground. We may be pinned down. 3 other Narutos swooped in. You got that right, fucker. One nodded. Damn right. The last held out his hand, a gesture the other two mimicked towards the members of the team. Give us your scrolls or so help us we will beat the ever-loving shit out of you. The first to speak blinked. Wait a minute, how do we know about them being here? Another scoffed. Like we give a shit. We are Naruto. They nodded. Yeah. We only have the scroll of heaven, Shino said. The Narutos each made their own dejected faces. And we lost almost 10 of us to you. Another made a fist and held it to his chest. Damn it. The last saluted. We are Naruto forever. They ran up the trees and went back to rampaging. Kiba swallowed a lump in his throat. That guy has issues, man. I think he doesn't know how else to spend his energy, Hinata said, pressing her fingers together. This is his way of having fun. He's lonely. Sentient clones may do peculiar things in accordance with the original subconsciousness. They act that way to make him feel better, Shino said, to the great confusion of his teammates. Their side of the attack of the clones had ended. Team 10 was hiding in the bushes when the horde of orange and blue locusts descended upon the forest. Shikamaru was the first to act, transforming into Naruto. Guys, transform now. I think I'd rather die, Ino, cringing, said. I'd not. Choji complied, turning into the perfect image his own teammate had. We're never going to make Chunin if you do anyway. And she couldn't stop Shikamaru from covering her mouth with his hand and forcefully transforming her. Hey. 2 Narutos stopped on the opposite sides of them. Are you guys Naruto? We are Naruto. Shikamaru shouted. Toji munched on some of his chips. We are Naruto. Fianado. Yeah. One said. We are Naruto. The other finished. They resumed their Naruto business, leaving the weakest Leaf team unmolested. Troublesome. Shikamaru shook his head. And Naruto pushed his hand away. Ugh, someone kill me. Naruto kept munching. He seems like he's having a lot of fun. Really, it was making up for the grimness of nearly being made snake droppings.